It is 6 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on this Wednesday, September 25th, 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, and center. It's a beautiful day in the greatest country in history, and we're gearing up for a whole nother morning of engaging discussions, critical analysis, but most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab a cup of coffee, Denver. Let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. A whole lot to cover today, including Jared Polis having some words for Donald Trump and his potential visit. I saw, Billy, that Trump is not going to Springfield.
No, yeah, that's
pull
a
back
change.
on that one.
Yeah, he did.
Do you think he's going to come? I'm a little more pessimistic.
I'm pessimistic as well. Jared Polis isn't rolling out the red carpet. Kaufman is kind of keeping him at an arm's length. I don't know.
And it's coming down to Pennsylvania and North Carolina, and Colorado's far away from those.
We're very far away, and I think it'll come to the idea of, does he think that visually he can create the spectacle that he needs to based on immigration? And it's what we talked about the very first time. I think the biggest problem with this is where he holds that particular rally, because if he is not saying, look, here are the apartment buildings right near me, if we're having it at the Gaylord of the Rockies.
The Venezuelans are in the background having a barbecue.
There's nothing there. And that's the hard part about it. It's the idea being, when our friends over at Channel 9 send their reporters out to stand up and report on the incident, they send them close to the incident. They don't send them, if the plane crashes at DIA, they don't have someone go out to Red Rocks and stand there and go, I'm here at Red Rocks telling you about the crash, just because Red Rocks looks better. And that's going to be the problem. He has to be where the action is, or it looks too, antiseptic. And it looks like he doesn't really care about it. It becomes, if I can't turn on the TV and see that visual around him, that he's there at the migrant problem there in Colorado, then the visual is meaningless, in my opinion. So I think that's the difficulty that he's got right now. Where does he do it?
I will tell you, we're getting a reputation, the state of Colorado.
Oh,
and
yeah, we are.
Somebody mentioned this yesterday, and then they sent me the news link. We'll get into this after the news. There's a billboard off of I-25 as you drive from Wyoming into Colorado that says Venezuela Ahead. Be prepared.
Oh, my goodness. We got to talk about
that. So the Cowboy State Daily reporting that the same sheriff that did the come work in Wyoming.
Oh, yeah.
We respect law.
We talked to him. Yeah.
Okay. We had him on the show. He didn't put the billboard up, but there was a whole article about him, quote, busting out laughing as he drives into Colorado and says,
it is funny.
Venezuela Ahead.
Yeah, that's very
billboard.
Funny. That's a great billboard.
We'll describe it to you and tell you, more importantly, who put it up. But so we are getting a reputation.
Yeah, not a good
Trump may be able to capitalize on it. So we'll get into that. Plus, Harris and sex work.
Oh, interesting.
She took out an interesting position on that in 2019 that she isn't quite walking back. And more importantly, this was something that I called years ago that I thought the left was going to embrace, particularly as it related to kind of how leftists had embraced decriminalizing sex work in Europe and whether or not they would bring that to America. Then Romney on Trump. We talked a little bit about how the old guard Republicans yesterday are not supporting the current president. And is it personal? Oh boy, there's an Atlantic article out where it is very personal for Mitt Romney. Yeah. So we'll cover that as well. And then I want to, at the end of the show, do a little special tribute to a very good friend of mine who passed away just late last week. And you know the name Coble, Buzz Coble, who was the head of the Coble Company. If you know Coble Library out by West Middle School, that's the library I went to as a kid. You see a lot of their property everywhere. He helped essentially develop Denver Tech Center. Passed away on Thursday. So we'll cover all of that and more on today's show, wearing Rockies in tribute to Charlie Blackmon's retirement.
Nice. Yeah,
14 years.
That's crazy.
He's great. He took time to sign an autograph for my son one day. I really appreciated that.
I've always wondered about those players because you get to a point where you've played so long for one team, how much loyalty is there? But there's also that question about, could I have, should I have? And there are some questions about that. And it's
Bill, I think about that every day.
Yes. Oh yeah, I know that.
Could I have? Should I have?
Yeah. I mean, I look at there's one of my favorite all-time soccer players from my team, Newcastle, Alan Shearer, probably one of the greatest English goal scorers ever. But he played his career with Newcastle, so he never won the trophies he could have if he would have gone somewhere else. And there are examples of that, like Harry Kane, great English striker right now, recently left his home club of Tottenham out of London and is now playing in the Bundesliga with Bayern Munich. Why? Because Bayern Munich wins trophies. Tottenham doesn't. And so he's chasing the silverware. And I was always curious about that as that motivation for certain professional athletes. Yeah.
And some are just happy to settle into a community, be part of the community, like Elway, think Peyton Manning, think Todd Helton, those types of guys. Just happy to be here. Yep. We don't need to be traveling, chasing trophies.
No.
So
but LeBron,
Newcastle United. Yeah, right. Newcastle United.
Yeah.
Why Newcastle United? Who are they?
Here's the problem. Okay, so young Billy was playing soccer, and this is probably around 7-8 years old. And on PBS at the time, there was 1 hour of soccer that you could watch as a little kid that was international. 30 minutes out of Germany and 30 minutes out of England. That's it. You had nothing else professionally at all. You were starved for anything. So I would watch those shows religiously. And on the English, I'm 6-7 years old at the time, and on the English Premier League wrap-up, there's this team that I see running around, and they're dressed like the NFL refs. I'm a big Broncos fan, but I'm looking at the team, and I'm like, they look like a bunch of refs. I thought that was hilarious. So I decided that was my team, not understanding that Newcastle sucks. It was a lifetime of disappointment, sadness. It would be like being a Cleveland Browns fan before. I was going to say, like after
sound like Hugh Hewitt.
Oh, yeah. It is awful. It was horrible. Finally now, recently, last couple of years, the Saudi investment firm bought Newcastle. So now we have more money than God. And by that, I am not exaggerating. We have more money than everybody else in the Premier League put together.
Wow.
It is stupid. If you look at the total amount of money that all the clubs have, and it was a pie chart, 80% of the money available in the Premier League is my club. We have all the money, which is a really weird place to be in. Now, there are rules, so we can't go out there and be the New York Yankees. There are some fair play rules, which really makes me sad because Manchester City took advantage of those, and now they're winning everything. So they got in before the rules changed. But yeah, I was a little kid. I decided to cheer for the team that looked like the refs, not knowing that it was going to be an entire lifetime of sadness and disappointment. Up until recently, my team has been good a total of two seasons, and we're going on 40 years of this misery. That's how bad it is. My team's been relegated more times than we've been good. It's awful. Yeah.
There you go. They do look like ref jerseys.
They do. I love them. That's why. And again, when you're like 7, of course it's the ref jerseys. I'm like, that's my team, the team of the refs. And I had no idea.
That is funny. Well, a whole lot of news to cover, including some updating news on Trump being briefed on assassination attempts from Iran. Ooh, boy. So
you
a whole lot to come.
More attacks and more things coming. You're right.
Yeah.
Didn't expect it from Iran, though, dude.
Speaking of personal, it is, after Soleimani, it is all personal.
Oh, yeah, it is.
For them. So we'll cover that as well. Let's check in first on news and comment with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, guys. So wait a minute, Billy, they're vertical stripes. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah.
I'm
looking at their uniform right now.
Stripes. Yeah.
Okay.
There are several clubs that have that. Juventus in the Italian league also has it, but we didn't have Italian soccer because Juventus was actually a decent team. But yeah, Newcastle, it's black and white stripes. So they look like NFL referee jerseys. And for a kid that's younger than 10, That's cool. Then so,
And
yeah.
All this time, I thought Newcastle was just in Wyoming. That's it.
Nope.
And they don't wear vertically striped
No, they don't.
uniforms in Newcastle, Wyoming. 48 and clear in Denver, expecting a high of 88 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story, Coloradans can expect a lot less from their tax refunds this year, while some taxpayers received up to $800 from the state. In 2023, refunds will now be capped at $571. Refund amounts will likely continue dropping as Colorado expects less tax revenue in the coming years.
That and they're spreading it around.
Yeah.
So, the percentages are not equal anymore. If you paid in your taxes and you paid a lot, well, you shouldn't expect a fair percentage back. We're now going to spread the wealth around.
Yeah. You know what else they spread around? You're a rancher or a farmer.
That's why you got to take your shoes off when you come in the house.
That's right. Exactly. A teenager is in custody after a fight over hot sauce turned deadly. Denver police say they responded to a fatal stabbing at a house near the border of the Sloan Lake and Jefferson Park neighborhoods on Tuesday. 2 family members allegedly got into a fight over hot sauce, which escalated into a physical altercation and a stabbing. Police arrested 19-year-old Jorge Vigil, who's being charged with second-degree murder.
Now, Blake, I got a question.
Yes.
Here. Do you know what kind of hot sauce it was?
I don't know. It is important.
Yeah.
I have no. You know what?
I don't know. The only reason why
are you a hot sauce guy?
No, not necessarily. I'm just saying that if there is a hot sauce out there that is so good you'd stab somebody else over it, I'm kind of curious.
Same
that
here.
may be the one I would try, and I might reach out to the marketing team and say, you might have something here.
Right.
But I saw an ad for some of the best, like one of the best ads for hot sauce I've ever seen. It's called Crippling Hot.
Oh wow!
And the guy who started it has cerebral palsy.
Oh wow!
And the whole thing is just a joke about how your hot sauce can like put you on your back, basically.
Oh my God!
He just embraces his disability.
Yeah.
And so he calls it crippling hot sauce.
That's fantastic. See,
is
right now on my radar, speaking of hot sauce, is again, I'm a music geek here for a second. Kerry King, guitarist from Slayer, is releasing his brand of hot sauce, and it's called Raining Blood. Tribute to the classic song from Slayer. But I just want a hot sauce in my fridge that says Raining Blood. I don't care if it sucks. I just want the package. Do not care. It could be the worst hot sauce on the planet. Exactly. I just want the bottle that says Raining Blood. That's all I want. That's it.
See what the logo looks
all
like.
I want.
No, I doubt it was Signature brand. I'm not sure.
Probably not. Probably wasn't Signature. Yes. Probably wasn't Kirkland. Yes.
There's a possibility there.
Yes.
I'm not sure.
I think you're right, my friend.
If it was, then I don't know. We've got bigger problems.
Yes, we do.
Absolutely. A Senate report finds the Secret Service is facing numerous problems keeping it from doing its job effectively. The 94-page report out today finds that a number of failures in security planning and communication directly contributed to the July assassination attempt against former President Trump at the Pennsylvania rally. The report specifically cited a lack of chain of command, poor coordination with local law enforcement, and inadequate resources. So, okay. Having said that, shouldn't Alejandro Mayorkas be fired now?
Yeah, it's such government doublespeak.
Oh, so
the reason it happened was a lack of government resources and communication problems. No, you guys didn't want to provide the necessary protection against a political opponent.
Correct.
Maybe you didn't really think the threats were out there. That's one excuse. But two, I think the underlying problem is they don't really care if he dies.
Right. They allowed it to happen. I mean, it's the Secret Service. When have we? This is all you hear growing up. How? Oh my God, the Secret
they were
Service,
the best.
They were the best, and all of a sudden they're the Keystone Cops.
Well, and then you get the overlay of just the DEI stuff. right?
Oh,
Where
absolutely.
and we host a non-state legal foundation, and they're looking for cases right now because the former director of the Secret Service comes out and says, well, we're looking to hire 30% women. Well, okay.
Right.
Well, I don't care if they're men or women. I care if they can do the job. Why does that matter what chromosome they have? We need the best. That always should have been the bar. The very best get hired at the Secret Service. I don't care about arbitrary numbers and percentages you want to hit.
Are you tall enough to protect the president?
Yes.
Is Kim Cheadle, she's still getting paid?
Oh, I'm sure. These are like the football. How long are we going to be paying, Russell Wilson from the Broncos? These guys just move on.
So she's just in a different office and still getting paid. And this Ronald McDonald Rowe, this guy should be fired. He was part of it. And now he's acting like he's Superman. And we're just over a month away from election time. And DJ T's life is on the line every minute. So,
I mean, what do you think what message, Blake, do you think that sends to the voters right now about, like, when I look at Donald J. Trump, I'm like, all right, the radical leftists want to kill him. The Iranians want to kill him. I'm sure the Chinese would like to kill him. All of our enemies, including enemies that are destroying this country from within, want to assassinate Donald Trump. What does that tell you about him? To me, it communicates this is a guy that's desperately needed to set the world right again. Right. And thank God he's willing to press through all this stuff. But my goodness, think about the forces trying to take him down. I think that sends a message that he's the right guy.
No doubt. And then we need to go back to 2016 when he talked about cleaning the swamp. It's a cesspool. It's just disgusting. And he honestly, he's the only one who can do it. So former President Trump, speaking of DJT, in Savannah.
When she says we're working on the border, she still has airplanes flying in loaded up with migrants over the border. She thought she wouldn't get caught. It took them about 2 years to figure that one out. It was a little strange. Brand new, beautiful, large Boeing jets are landing in airports all over our country, and migrants are getting out. Took a little while to figure that one out.
Yeah, that one still irks me. Kamala Khan calls NPR with her housing plan from one of the great politicians who helped destroy the Bay Area.
The second is to cut through the red tape that currently, it exists in from local, state, and federal levels, and really cutting through the red tape so that we don't unnecessarily burden the ability to actually create this additional housing that brings down the cost.
There she is, cost of housing. She loves that burden word, even though that's what she does. She just creates all of it. They all do. Thousands of Florida residents are being ordered to evacuate ahead of Tropical Storm Helene. The storm is expected to become a hurricane today and would be the fourth hurricane to make landfill in the U.S. when it hits Florida's Gulf Coast, probably late Thursday. All right, news brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills. Locally owned and operated since 1954. Online at lairfireplacepatio.com. 47 in Aurora, 46 in Littleton, 48 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue. It is Hump Day Wednesday. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
High pressure covers the entire western half of the nation and will through the weekend. So Denver in the Front Range will be sunny, warm, and dry with clear, cool nights through Sunday. Sunny to partly sunny with mid-80s today, 85 to 90 Thursday, low to mid-80s for Friday, and 80s Saturday and Sunday. Nights mostly 50s. Weather sponsored by BranchPlanning.com. Secure your future retirement with a reliable income stream. Annuities can provide guaranteed payments, giving you peace of mind. Get your complimentary review at BranchPlanning.com or call 303-219-0088. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
So after 14 seasons, Charlie Blackmon's retiring. I'm wearing a little Rockies jersey in honor of that. Not a big sports guy in the sense of like I can't tell you the names of the players, and I would be like,
Yeah.
Broncos have Bo Nix and John Elway and Rockies have Todd Helton at one point, right?
Yeah,
Like, I can't tell you the lineup of all these guys, but my son, when he was 10 years old, wanted to go for his birthday to a Rockies game. And we decided to get there the moment the gates opened and did the whole shag the fly balls and spend time and then run down and see if you can get an autograph. And Charlie Blackmon came up and signed a ball for my boy, which I'm always going to appreciate. But I was reading in the Gazette about his retirement, and this is this is going to strike a chord with some of us out there. He writes, I don't know what is on the other side of the fence, but I take solace in knowing one thing remain constant. Although names and faces will change, the game will continue to be played, Blackmon said. Then he finished with this: I'll hop over that fence, pickle the beast, and embrace the next phase of my life. Do you know what reference that is?
No, I don't.
The Sandlot.
Oh, that's right. That is right.
Which is, this is the age difference that plays in my direction.
Yeah.
That movie was like transformative.
Oh yeah,
man!
I remember Sandlot.
The lifeguard killing me smalls, pickling the beast, all that stuff. Like
I forgot about that, pickling the beast. That's right. That is fantastic.
So Charlie Blackmon going out referencing,
which is interesting because yours is. You have the reference of the Sandlot, and you may not get the reference, and Blake might, etc. But I won't bother him at this point. The idea of Chopper. And Chopper sicking a certain part of your anatomy in a certain movie that's about coming of age. Yeah. I don't remember. I can't say it on the air, but it's sick black Chopper.
Is that, what movie is that?
That's from Stand By Me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Stand By Me,
which
is based on a short story called The Body from Stephen King. One of the very few movie adaptations that actually do the book justice. In part, though, because it's a short story. You can't adapt a Stephen King novel decently at all into a movie. That just is never going to work. It will never
like Cujo and It and all those.
Even though Cujo was okay.
I've never gotten into those movies. I'm not a big horror movie guy.
Cujo was okay based on the book. Same thing. Carrie is fairly close. Christine, okay, fairly decent. The rest of them are okay. Shawshank Redemption is probably another one that's very, very good.
Is that a Stephen King one?
Yeah, that's
based on a short
great
movie.
Yeah, based on a short story. Here's the other one that not many people knowing about. Running Man. That's a Stephen King book, but it's not under Stephen King's name. It's under Richard Bachman's name. Yeah, because what happened at the time is those word processors were just coming out, and King got a hold of a brand new word processor, and he doesn't just read voraciously, he writes voraciously. He just writes and writes and writes, and he was submitting these manuscripts to his publisher, and the publisher was like, no, we can't publish these because you're going to knock your books off the bestseller list. We can't get too much Stephen King out in the market. We have to kind of dribble feed it out so that people buy it. And he's like, fine. So then a couple of months later, this dude shows up, Richard Bachman, and he has these very Stephen King-esque novels, and they start rising up the bestseller list, and they're actually knocking some of Stephen King's books out of position. And eventually people come to realize, and he admits it, that, he's Richard Bachman. In fact, there is
just writing under a different name,
a total different name. In fact, if you go back, and I have the original first edition copies of these, if you go back and get the books, The Regulators and The Wasteland, the covers match. It's one long cover between the two. And what he did is he took an idea and then he went one way as Stephen King and went a different way as Richard Bachman. The characters are the same and the scenario is the same, but the story is told in two completely different manners.
Oh, interesting.
It's really, really cool. Yeah. But if you go and you put the covers next to each other, it's all one big story cover. He's actually giving you a wink and a nod at that point, telling you, hey, this is me. But not many people figured it out at the time.
So you embrace Stephen King for his artistic work, and what sits in my mind are the Twitter battles because he's a raging lib. So there you go.
Yes, I fell in love with him long before Twitter ever existed. So in fact, if anybody has time, go back and start with The Dark Tower, because that's his magnum opus. That's eight novels long, and it is a long string tale. And it's the one story that King says he has been driven to write. It's the one story that he's felt has always wanted to get out of his body. He said the others are fun. said, but this one had to be written by him. Yeah, it's really interesting. In fact, it starts, and I think we've talked about it before, but it is considered to have one of the top 5 opening lines of a novel ever in all of literature. Yeah.
What's
and
that?
It's the man in black walked, I think it's, if I go correctly, it's the man in black walked across the desert and the gunslinger followed. Yeah. It sets the scene of exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's a Western, which I read Louis L'Amour.
It is. It's a Western-esque
Esque.
story. You would appreciate Roland. You'd appreciate Roland and him being the gunslinger as far as what he is and how he behaves, his moral compass. But he makes some awful choices because as he tells the child, there are other worlds than these. We will meet again. It's interesting. It's a fascinating book. Yeah.
Well, speaking of gunslingers, Wyoming sheriff bursts out laughing at Venezuela Ahead billboard at Colorado border. Cowboy State Daily reporting on this. And this came from one of our listeners. He called the other day to tell us about he thought he had passed a billboard that said Venezuela Ahead, be prepared. Well, and lo and behold, they texted us an article about it. A large billboard warns drivers along southbound Interstate 25 at the Wyoming-Colorado border, Venezuela ahead! Be prepared! On a color scheme that mimics the Venezuelan flag. This is in reference to recent reports of a Venezuelan gang named Tren de Aragua taking over an apartment complex in Aurora, Colorado, a large suburb of Denver. They have to put in those details because this is an article written in Wyoming. Laramie County Sheriff Brian Kozak said he burst out laughing when he saw the billboard for the first time. I laughed when I saw it because billboards are effective, he said. Kozak bought a billboard ad of his own in Denver in May, advertising Wyoming as a place where frustrated Colorado cops could come to work and where police are funded, and breaking the law is still illegal. Denver Mayor Mike Johnston bristled at the billboard, calling a mischaracterization of a small budget cut to the police department, which he said would pose no impact on the department's public services. Yeah, right. No impact. Remember when the Denver police were like, well, we're just going to stop issuing traffic citations because we don't have the people to do it. As a result of his billboard, Kozak said he received thousands of job applications and hired 10 new deputies. We hosted Brian Kozak at one point on the show, and he's great spirits, man. Just kind of going, look, we offer something a lot better than what you got going on in Denver. And I would agree with him. The new billboard is referencing rumors and reports that a violent Venezuelan gang had taken over apartment complexes in Aurora, Colorado, a suburb of Denver, they write. A law firm the apartment complex hired to investigate the situations insists a gang did take over the apartment complex. Well, Aurora Police Department city officials here deny at least like the idea that the entire city is run by Venezuelan gangs. Kozak has said he's heard conflicting reports about the situation and isn't sure what's true. That's just part of the problem about all this stuff. We went down and actually interviewed people, so we know what's true. Yes, there's gang activity down there. But have they taken over the entire city of Aurora? No. But part of the problem and why this all spun up is because the governor denied that it was happening and Channel 9 facilitated that. So, like I've said dozens of times, there's gang activity that happens in cities all over America. It doesn't make major national news. It made major national news because our elected officials tried to deny it, with the exception of Danielle Jurinsky and hopefully soon to be Congressman John Fabricatori. So who did this billboard? The bottom of the billboard reads, paid for by Clipper Properties, LLC, Tim Mellon. Member. A Saratoga resident named Tim Mellon donated $50 million to the Trump campaign in May, the largest donation to the campaign, according to Vanity Fair. Since the start of 2022, Mellon has poured in more than $125 million to Make America Great Again, the Trump-affiliated super PAC, and $25 million to American Values 2024, Robert Kennedy's super PAC. A secretive billionaire, Mellon is the heir of the Mellon banking family and also was the largest donor to independent candidate Robert F. Kennedy's campaign, which was dropped last month, along with Kennedy endorsing Trump. The Cowboy State Daily called a Saratoga number associated with someone named Tim Mellon was not returned. According to BBC, Mellon has lived on a ranch in Wyoming since 2005, Wyoming Secretary of State's office records show that Clipper Properties is registered to a law firm belonging to former state legislator and University of Wyoming Board of Trustees chairman Kermit Brown. And they've declined to talk as well. So some billionaires that are funding Trump and lots of other capacities put the billboard up. But I think it's hilarious. I love this stuff that just is like, it's just political cotton candy.
Oh yeah, I
right.
love it.
Like it just gets the conversation going.
Yeah,
they're not really beating up anybody. They're not going like, oh, the Venezuelans are terrible, deport them all, type of thing. It's just kind of Venezuela ahead. Be prepared.
It's just it's a fun social commentary that isn't casting aspersions one way or another and allows you to draw your own inferences. And this is fantastic. I wish that I was wealthy enough that I could just put up random billboards like this.
I think you would.
Yes.
I think you would love it.
I would all the time. Just so ridiculous things. I mean, it's, I would be tempted to do things like, put one billboard on one side of the road that says, hey, wait, look over there. And then put another one on the other side, say, what are you looking over here for? I mean, just random stuff that makes no sense. Just because of, I find it entertaining, and I love the idea that the way that this makes a statement, it's not going to hit you over the head with it. It's clever, and again, allows you to draw your own conclusions. If you're excited about the migrant policy in the sanctuary city, then you're like, this is fantastic. But if not, and it does, it allows you to draw your own conclusions, and it's fantastic. I love it. I appreciate these more than you know. These are wonderful.
Give me a call. Would love to hear from you about this. Again, a billboard on the border of Wyoming and Colorado as you drive into Colorado that says Venezuela ahead. Be prepared. Do you appreciate this? Do you think it's derogatory, unhelpful? Would love to hear thoughts from you. 303-696-1971.
I also want to know what billboard would our listener erect.
That's a good one.
We could write you a check, and you could, because I know yours is, for the love of God, get your kids out of government-run schools.
Yes.
So I would have something ridiculously stupid. But yeah, I would want to know if you could put up the billboard, what would you want it to say?
Great, Bill.
Yeah.
Yes. What would your billboard say? And it can't be curse words.
No.
303-696-1971. Or text the show on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115, 720-819-5115. Speaking of Dan Caplis, I want to tell you about my good friend Dan Caplis and Dan Caplis Law. Dan suggests that you should choose a lawyer who shares your values because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everyone involved in the case. Dan Caplis is the son of a police officer. He's a former seminarian who's dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people who are hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. But more than just being a guy of great values, Dan is a real winner in the courtroom. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. Dan Caplis is so trusted that his law firm is the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Caplis Law is a serious firm for serious cases. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. If you need Dan's help, give him a call. Even if you're not in an accident right now, put his phone in your phone number. So if you are, you can quickly respond and get the help you need. 303-770-5551. That's 303-770-5551. Or hit dancaplisLaw.com. That's Dan, CAPLIS law.com. We'll continue with the Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour, I'm Christina Wyo in Dallas, and here are your top stories.
As the crisis at the southern border continues to impact the country, we took a trip to South Texas to get the 411 on the terror threat that's facing the nation.
A more than 3,000% increase in illegal migrants who are on the terror watch list have crossed into the country since the start of the Biden-Harris administration. And that's not even the most shocking fact that came from a hearing on Capitol Hill, where a former Border Patrol chief testified that he and other Border Patrol agents were essentially muzzled by higher-ups in the federal government.
At that hearing that dove into the the terror threat at the southern border, retired San Diego Border Patrol Chief Aaron Haitke testified that he was ordered by the Biden-Harris administration not to report illegal border crossers with ties to terrorism or publicize the arrest of illegal border crossers identified as significant interest aliens with ties to terrorism so they could make the American public believe that there is not a threat at the border. Listen to this. During the 4 years that Donald Trump was in office, only 11 migrants with ties to terrorism arrived at the border. Meanwhile, the Biden-Harris administration has allowed 332 illegal migrants with ties to terrorists into the country. According to Heitke, that doesn't include the ones that they don't know about that came across with the more than 2 million gotaways that are in the country right now. He said, quote, "We have no idea who and what entered our country."
That's what you need to know at this hour. In Dallas, Christina Weil, Salem News Channel.
What if this sound actually made you smile, giving you a chance to win gas and groceries for a year? It's the $13,000 gas and grocery giveaway. The grand prize winner gets $10,000 in gas and grocery gift cards. 2 first prize winners get $1,000 in gift cards. And 2 second prize winners get $500 in gift cards.
Presented by Branch Planning. Secure your future retirement with a reliable income stream. Get your complimentary review at branchplanning.com or call 303-219-0088. The $13,000 gas and groceries giveaway. Enter today at 710knus.com.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. A billionaire has put up a billboard as you drive from Wyoming into Colorado that says Venezuela ahead. Be prepared. What billboard would you put up if you had unlimited funds to send a message across this country? One texter, welcome to Colorado, a totally democratic state. Since the introduction of mail-in ballots.
That's good.
They aren't wrong.
Adam down in the video room said he misses that billboard from back in the day on, I think it was I-25, that said, honk if you love Tim Tebow. He just would bring that back because, and I think that's great because the relevancy isn't there anymore. So it's even more clever. I like that. What would you have? I know you're one about the schools. Anything else?
Well, this one I love. This one.
Yeah.
Eat less kittens, vote Republican.
That's good. See, I started thinking about stuff that would engage and like what would we go on. One of the phrases, and I forgot who the author is, are things like those mountains you are carrying, you were meant to climb. I think that's interesting. And so something like that.
Well, you gotta take it into like personal inspiration.
No, but I
get up this morning.
I know.
This Wednesday morning, that mountain you're carrying, you're
Yeah.
meant to climb.
Yeah.
A word of inspiration from
Yeah.
Bill.
It's kind of a thing, and it's but I'd also lean into the idea that about music, that there are times in which music is more or less how we paint time. There are all sorts of things that we do with art, but music is something that is enduring beyond the individual performance and the individual time that exists. There's some stuff from Victor Hugo that's pretty good, and some other things out there, and that's probably where I would lean into as well. Yeah.
Well, the Wyoming billboard getting a lot of attention. Feel free to give us a call, 303-696-1971, or text the Dan Caplis Law text line on what you think would be a good billboard to send a message to Jared Polis or Mike Johnston or the rest of them here in this community. Maybe a Kyle Clark. Maybe you don't hate Channel 9 enough, billboard.
There we go. That could be a good one. Or just maybe a large white billboard and in big black letters, stop it. just that. I think everybody can interpret that the way they want. It's a message for you individually.
So speaking of the kittens of Springfield, Ohio, a Haitian group in Springfield has now filed criminal charges against Trump and Vance after false pet claims. This is from NBC News. The leader of the Haitian Bridge Alliance filed the criminal charges over false claims the former president and his running mate made about Haitian immigrants eating local pets.
Ooh.
The leader of a Haitian nonprofit community group filed criminal charges Tuesday against President Donald Trump, the Republican presidential nominee, and his running mate, Senator JD Vance, over false claims they made about Haitian immigrants eating local pets in Springfield, Ohio. The co-founder and executive director of the Haitian Bridge Alliance filed the charges on behalf of the group. They write, over the last 2 weeks, both Trump and Vance led an effort to vilify and threaten the Haitian community in Springfield, Ohio. Joseph wrote, together, they spread and amplified the debunked claims that Haitian immigrants in Springfield are eating cats and dogs and eating wildlife. Well, the problem is there's 911 calls, at least about the wildlife stuff.
Yeah, but not in Springfield. That's the problem.
And then the cat one was, I thought the 911 calls was in Springfield about the geese.
Yeah, no, that's a city that's over 110 miles away. It would be like a phone call.
I know the Canton cat one.
Yeah, no, but the other one it is. And there's only I think 1 or 2 phone calls. That's it. And the police in that town have said they haven't been able to find anything of that happening regularly, or even in that one incident. They can't find any missing geese. They can't find any bodies. They can't find anybody responsible for it. So it's not in Springfield.
I saw a testimony in the Springfield City Council of a woman talking about pets.
Yeah. And all I'm saying is
the farm animals losing some of their heads.
Yeah. And all I know is that, that when people stand up in front of a city council, they always tell the truth all the time.
Yeah. But I watched her testimony though. And here's where I struggle with this, is because I've watched mainstream media do their absolute best to dismiss Venezuelan gang concerns in Aurora. So here's what I think is happening in Springfield. I think you've had 20,000 Haitians flown in on this little program that Joe Biden, Kamala Harris did.
That many of the residents asked for. That's part of it.
Well, so I'm not saying, so hold on. The idea, I haven't seen evidence that they were directly resettled in Springfield, right? Like this, we're going to drop you out of planes with parachutes and you land in Springfield. But the program itself brought in 200,000 Haitians into this country. 20,000 have ended up in Springfield. Okay. So, and you even talk to pastors, you talk to people that live there. This took a community of 60,000, added 20,000 Haitian migrants to it. And there's stresses on the infrastructure. There's cultural challenges taking place. There's all this stuff, right? So I feel like what the media is doing, and I don't totally dismiss Donald Trump and JD Vance for contributing to this problem, is similar to what they're doing here in Aurora, where they're going, well, Donald Trump said that the entire city's been taken over by Venezuelans. And you're like, yeah, he probably shouldn't have said that. But that doesn't mean we don't have Venezuelan problems, gang problems in Aurora. We went down there and talked to people. So they try to do a broad dismissal that because we don't have evidence of cats and dogs being barbecued, that the concerns of the residents about Haitian migrants coming into the community are being totally dismissed. And I just don't think that's fair.
Well, here's the thing. The problem is where Vance and Trump wanted to plant their flag. And it was on the eating the pets. And that is demonstrably not true. That's what they said the issue is. Here, it was we had an issue with Venezuelan gangs. Did they over-exaggerate how large it is? Yes. But the issue still is true. The issue that Trump and Vance brought up is not true. It's a complete and total fabrication. In fact, the cat that started the original story was found in the woman's basement, in her own basement. She was never missing. The cat was never gone. And that's the problem, is the kernel of truth exists in the story about the Venezuelan migrants here, even though they've made it too large. There is no kernel of truth in what Vance and Trump have said about the Haitian migrants in Springfield. There's no kernel of truth in the fact that they are taking pets or any of their animals.
Kernel of truth with regards to the eating of animals, yes. But
that was the issue.
But the problem that the community is facing with that dramatic of a change to their community is warranted.
But that wasn't the point of either J.D. Vance or of Donald Trump. It was these migrants are eating your pets. If they came out and said, it has been this thing, and this is a hard thing for these cities, and we have cities all over the country that are dealing with this, and this is the infrastructure, they have a point. That's not the point they made. Their point was always eating the pets. That's why this one is going to stick to them, and it's going to be hard for them to escape from it because it is so demonstrably false and absolutely ridiculous. And they planted their flag on the idea that
it resulted in some amazing memes, though.
Oh, yes, it did. Absolutely.
So that may have worked out. All right.
Absolutely, yes.
Let's, we've got to get to You Choose the News. Coming up, you're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Oh, Bill, this reminds me of that great Saturday Night Live skit.
Oh, yeah. The head. Oh, yeah, I can do that one.
All right, give the people you choose the news.
Yes, we are under a bit of a time crunch, so we are going to play everybody's favorite fake radio news game show. You choose the news, the fast forward edition. Yes, you know how this works. Scour interwebs, weird stories, stupid headlines, and nobody's paying attention. Jeff Hunt and Blake Olson from the newsroom are joining us today. Here we go, gentlemen. Headline number 1, working as intended. Headline number 2, I'm rubber, you're glue. Headline number 3, that's a spicy boomerang. And headline number 4, return to sender. Mr. Hunt, your choice, sir.
In light of Springfield, Ohio, I think it's working as intended,
Yes.
as Biden and Harris planned it.
Working as intended, police in Switzerland have made multiple arrests after a woman used the so-called suicide pod for the first time.
Oh, yeah.
Now, you may have remembered a couple of months ago, we brought to you the company Sarco, and it's basically a pod in which you climb in, asks you if you want to kill yourself. Do you really, really super want to kill yourself? Are you sure about that? Check here, click here, and then you push the button, and then you die. But someone used it within the last 48 hours, and the individuals that were responsible for providing the pod and having the woman get inside, etc., are now being criminally investigated. So we'll see if this whole thing ends up.
That's good.
Up.
That's good. This is
kind of weird.
such a bad road to be on, dude.
I do too. I hate the idea of mass producing something like this because there's so many things that could go wrong. Yeah. Speaking of things that can go wrong, it is now Blake Olson's choice. I'm rubber, you're glue. That's a spicy boomerang, a return to sender, my friend.
Return
To sender, address unknown. Oh, we could almost do it. We're still not as good as the king. Now, recently, passengers aboard American Airlines thought they were caught in an Elvis song. They have a new fear unlocked because they took off bound for South Korea. After being in the air for 9 hours, they arrived back in Texas, where they started.
What? Dude,
Yes.
that happened to me on a trip to Israel.
Yeah. The problem was there was something wrong with the bathrooms, and they couldn't fix it in flight, so they had to turn around 9 hours total back to Texas in order to land, only to get off the plane and be told you're
Dude,
gonna have to do
I
this
had
all
a
again
6-hour flight to nowhere.
Yes,
and
really?
my experience ended up all over the news because I recorded it.
Good.
But yeah, I woke back in Newark. I was like, what is the
hell's wrong with
It's the
this?
weirdest situation. You're like, what?
This is a nightmare. Who wants to go to New York twice? Seriously. All right. Final choice this morning, Mr. Hunt. I'm rubber, you're glue, or spicy boomerang.
Spicy boomerang.
This is a spicy boomerang. Former President Donald Trump has again made headlines after sharing an image of Kamala Harris hanging out with rapper Sean Diddy Combs. Yeah, Diddy is under criminal investigation. No, it's not true. But what has surfaced are real pictures of Trump hanging out with Diddy. So, yeah, that's not good. That boomerang hurts.
Live by the sword, die by the sword.
That's it. That's the end of You Choose the News. Back to you,
All
sir.
right. Kamala Harris is interested in decriminalizing sex work.
Interesting.
This will be interesting. We'll cover that and more. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
It is 7 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Wednesday, September 25th. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Congratulations. You woke up in the greatest country in history, and we're gearing up for a whole nother hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab a cup of coffee, Denver. Let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Billy and I are analyzing at least a police report in light of the last hour that would confirm Haitian goose hunting in Springfield.
Not necessarily in Springfield, in Clark County, because that's where the report's from.
Yeah, but
and
do you see the police report there that says the city of Springfield?
Yeah, but again, the police
address, Water Street, and Water Street.
But the county seat, from what I'm seeing, inside of Clark County is in Springfield. But it doesn't necessarily mean the report was there, because the report was in somewhere else, was in Columbus, where that audio is from, because this is related to the phone call about the geese. And the geese call came from Columbus, not from Springfield. And that would be different. And I believe Columbus is still in Clark County.
All right. Well, we'll have to continue to look into that. I mean, but I understand that the cats and the dog eating was overblown. The cat eating, part of the confusion was you had video of a woman eating a cat that came from Ohio and people not knowing the difference between Springfield and Canton. But still, the bigger concern I have is what 20,000 Haitian refugees did to this community of Springfield. I'm not saying they did everything they did was bad and every single person's a criminal, but this was flown in by a Biden-Harris plan, and I think that has created some stress on the community. And that's worth talking about. But they probably got spun up on the cats and dogs issue, but sure did make some interesting memes. Let's check in on news and commentary with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, Jeff and Billy. 49 and sunny in Denver, expecting a high of 88 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, Douglas County adopting a camping ban as part of its strategy to reduce homelessness. Douglas County commissioners made it illegal to camp on public property Tuesday, implementing a fine of up to $1,000 for each violation. Homelessness in the county has dropped significantly in the last 2 years, but elected leaders say the camping ban will help protect public property and let residents reclaim their public spaces. Officials said that they will continue to offer resources through the county's Heart Initiative to help people dealing with homelessness. The superintendent of Denver Public Schools says he isn't ready to talk specifically about which schools could be on the chopping block later this year. Alex Marrero addressed about 100 people at a DPS town hall Tuesday at South High. Marrero said the school district needs to take action on consolidation now because enrollment is expected to decline another 9% by 2028. Another town hall will be held tonight at 6 o'clock at Manual High School. Coloradans can expect a lot less from their tax refunds this year. While some taxpayers received up to $800 from the state in 2023, refunds will now be capped at $571. Refund amounts will likely continue dropping as Colorado expects less tax revenue in the coming years. Thousands of Florida residents are being ordered to evacuate ahead of Tropical Storm Helene. The storm is expected to become a hurricane today and would be the fourth hurricane to make landfall in the U.S. when it hits the Florida Gulf Coast, probably late Thursday. Kamala Khan and former President Trump have agreed to participate in 2 town halls next month for undecided Hispanic voters. Univision journalist Enrique Acevedo will field audience questions for El Trumpo on October 8th in Miami, and Harris on October 10th in Vegas. El Trumpo in Savannah, Georgia, and this is vital, in my opinion.
And under my plan, American workers will no longer be worried about losing your jobs to foreign nations. Instead, foreign nations will be worried about losing their jobs to America.
Yep. When American jobs started going overseas, I don't know, in the 80s, 90s, that was the start of the erosion. Coca-Cola is discontinuing its new spiced flavor. This is for Billy, just 6 months after its release. 45 in Arvada, 46 in Englewood, and 49 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue. It's Wednesday. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
High pressure covers the entire western half of the nation and will through the weekend. So Denver in the Front Range will be sunny, warm, and dry with clear, cool nights through Sunday. Sunny to partly sunny with mid-80s today, 85 to 90 Thursday, low to mid-80s for Friday, and 80s Saturday and Sunday. Nights mostly 50s. Weather sponsored by branchplanning.com. Secure your future retirement with a reliable income stream. Annuities can provide guaranteed payments, giving you peace of mind. Get your complimentary review at branchplanning.com or call 303-219-0088. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Before I get to this Axios article that Harris won't say if she still backs decriminalizing prostitution, I spent some time yesterday just trying to dive into this Haitian Springfield, Ohio thing, because I'm a little sensitive to the way the media's treated the Venezuelan issue here in Aurora, where they were just like outright lying about it at one point. They're like, no, there's no problem. There's a code violation. It's a tenant landlord issue. And then thanks to Danielle Jurinsky, John Fabricatori, and others, they kept pressing the issue. And lo and behold, we did have Venezuelan gang problems. Now, look, the city of Aurora is not taken over by Venezuelan gangs. Nobody involved has said this. And did the president exaggerate Trump when he mentioned that during the debate? Yes, he did. But the media is like seizing that to try to dismiss that there's no problem. Look, he exaggerated. There's no problem whatsoever. This is a perfectly peaceful community. Well, no, we went down and actually talked to the residents of these communities. And so I'm a little sensitive to what's trying to happen in Springfield, Ohio. I could be wrong on all this. There's no evidence of cats and dogs being eaten in Springfield, Ohio. There was a missing cat, but then, and she actually sent a report to JD Vance's office, but she found the cat in her basement. So, but I think part of it, what confused it all was this video of a woman in Canton, Ohio, which is like 100 miles away or something like that, eating a cat, which was weird. Now, she was black, but she's not Haitian. So she can be attributed to the Haitian issue, but you can see why there might be a little bit of confusion there. It's in Ohio, maybe Haitians are eating cats, but they weren't, and there's no evidence of that. So there's confusion around that. I do think there's a lot of evidence, and I've watched testimony from pastors. I've watched testimony from community leaders. I've watched testimony from citizens that the Haitian immigration issue into Springfield, Ohio, and there's 20,000 that have moved there. There's no evidence that they were placed there by Biden-Harris, but they came into the country on a Biden-Harris plan, which flew them in. And that was launched in January of 2023. And in fact, has brought in 200,000 Haitians since then. 20,000 end up in Springfield, Ohio. And there's just a lot of stress on the community because this was a 60,000 person community. You have cultural issues, you have language issues, you have stress on healthcare, all that stuff. It does seem, and this doesn't bother me as much, Bill, the idea of eating geese. Whatever. We hunt geese. You have to typically have a permit for it.
Yeah, you gotta have a license for it.
But the Federalist is showing a police report, and my reading of it, I don't know, is that this came from Springfield at Water Street and Warder Street. And I looked it up on Google, and there's a bike path there, and they mention Haitians walking on a bike path carrying geese.
Yeah, and doing a little more digging. The sheriff's department said they investigated this. They didn't find any geese. They didn't find any Haitians. They haven't had any other calls about this. And they have no way to confirm this report as being true. And the Ohio Department of Natural Resources actually went in and looked at it as well. And they have said officially, no videos have surfaced. There are no pictures surfacing of Haitians with geese. There are no dead geese that have surfaced. There is nothing to substantiate anything in that call was happening. And that's from the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. And both the police and the Ohio Department of Natural Resources have investigated the issue and said they cannot find anything substantiating that this is happening. So, yes, we have one phone call and one person took a police report, but that's it. And so I don't think that we can draw any conclusions at all about this happening even once, more or less multiple times, in order to have JD Vance and Donald Trump in public say that the Haitian immigrants are eating dogs, cats, pets, geese, anything. We don't even have confirmation it happened once. We don't have anything that shows it happened once outside of a single police report. That's it. So if we had one police report about Venezuelan gangs at the apartment buildings here in town and nothing else, we wouldn't be running around saying there are problems there with Venezuelan gangs. We have more than enough evidence of everything else going on there. What we don't have in Springfield or anywhere else in Ohio is any large evidence that this is going on at all. That's the issue.
Of animal consumption.
Again, don't have any evidence of it.
But there's additional problems there. So this is one of those things that you know, it feels very similar in my mind to Aurora, which, you know, I'm not admonishing or dismissing, I guess, wrong word. I'm not dismissing what the concerns that Trump and Vance or the concern that Trump and Vance are bringing up stuff that's not happening there. In fact, I think that's stupid as a candidate when you do that, because then you're getting wrapped up having to defend stuff when there's an actual issue to discuss, which is the stress on the community that's happening from 20,000 Haitian immigrants. So let's go to the phone lines. Melissa, Lakewood, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning.
Good morning. I want to talk about the Haitians, but I had a snippet of inside information about Chicago and the Venezuelans, and any rumor that you hear about them not getting along is absolutely true, and it's building up. The gangbangers in Chicago are not going to put up with them much longer.
Yeah, there were reports that there's gang turf wars coming out of Chicago because of illegal immigrants coming in or migrants coming in.
Yeah, and Venezuela's not Haitians.
Messing with current gang operations taking place.
And not saying that all migrants are sex offenders, but even the worst gangbangers, you don't really hear about them on the first 48 much of, child trafficking and stuff like that. They're not on the same team. But the Haitian migrants, I was just going to say, I know there's no proof yet, but there is reason to believe that they might do something like that just because they're from a country that has been so desperate. And if you've ever watched that show Animal Cops, I've seen a couple of them in Texas where it turned out to be people from South America were stealing people's cattle and horses and gutting them and leaving by the side of the road. Like, it's not really that far-fetched that, they need to know the rules. They're not allowed to hunt.
I understand. I know that, Melissa. Melissa, I respect that, but remember that we have a former presidential candidate that is now supporting Donald Trump that talked about the fact that he was going to take a dead bear home and eat it because he found it by the side of the road. And that's RFK Jr. So the idea that we're saying, the migrants do this and take the animals and go and kill them. RFK Jr. has had numerous discussions over the course of years about how he has a thing for roadkill, about how he finds those animals and takes them home and then eats them. So I mean, I know, but the issue being, because the issue that I'm bringing up is that what I'm hearing is, because I don't understand this behavior, I'm going to cast aspersions about a group based on that behavior that I'm unfamiliar with, nor do I like. Yet we don't have any proof of that particular migrant group doing that here. And that's a problem. That's why. I mean, if it was true, I'll get on board and say, no, the migrants shouldn't be eating the dogs and the cats. The problem being is it's not true. We have nothing showing it's true, yet people are still saying, but that's why I don't trust them. That's intellectually not fair.
They are talking about them not being able to drive, though, like not obeying stop signs and red lights, like almost like they just were blindly handed a license. Like, do they know they're supposed to have insurance? Do they know they're supposed to have license plates? Just because you can, when you buy a car off of the lot, don't they give you temp tags?
Yeah, but if you've been driving around Denver, that doesn't mean anything. I saw someone yesterday that had temp tags from June of last year. That's ridiculous. The other problem that we have, and again, this is a systematic issue that I've got, Melissa, and I think we can all get on board with this. If we're looking at getting driver's licenses, if you're above 18, the barrier in order to get a driver's license is minimal. I don't even think in some places there are driver's tests. You just have to show up, and you either take a written and very rarely, in my impression, that you actually have a get in the car and have a driver's test. So that may be the situation inside of Springfield, where they are just, if they're over 18, you just hand them a license, which is stupid.
Well, I took the test 2 years ago, and they don't talk about all you have to do is keep your hand on 10 and 2, and they don't have talk about using your turn signal. I got in trouble for palming the wheel, but other than that, they don't take you on the highway. They don't say anything about any of the more important stuff, especially the turn signal thing, or like knowing what motorcycles are, doing. But sorry, I'm going on.
Oh yeah, no, I got it. I saw a guy that owns a barber shop in Springfield, and he was talking about, he was saying that the whole thing about the migrants eating the pets is dumb. He goes, they can't drive. He goes, yeah, absolutely. They can't drive at all. He said, but everything else inside the community, he was fine with.
Melissa, I appreciate the call. Thanks so much. Melissa's line will be open 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971. What's the real issue that America's wrestling with through these issues? And is the kind of these immigration issues that are coming through, is it the cats and dogs and eating that? Was that a mistake for the Trump and Vance campaigns to pick up on that without a lot of evidence that was even happening? Any evidence that was happening? Or is it important to address these issues? I've watched testimony from citizens in the city of Springfield that are frustrated with the direction of their community and how much it's changed, and they haven't had much control over it. You've had 20,000 Haitian migrants move into a community of 60,000 and fundamentally transform the nature of the community. And that's put a lot of stress on the community. And is it fair to the people of Springfield to have to deal with it? Or, is this just part of the process that America goes through when immigrants come in? We dealt with it with Polish immigrants and Irish immigrants and, immigrants in different times in different parts of our country. How do you deal with that? Love to hear from you. 303-696-1971 or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. Want to talk to you about my good friend Steven and Colorado's Best Roofing. If you're like me, you know that living in Colorado means dealing with unpredictable weather. Hail, snow, heavy winds, you name it, we've got it. That's why you need a roofing company you can trust, and that's Colorado's Best Roofing. They're local, family-owned, and have served the Denver area for over 12 years. They understand our unique climate and how to build a roof that lasts. Whether you need a repair after a storm or a whole new roof, Colorado's Best Roofing has got you covered. And here's what I really love. They offer a free, no-obligation inspection. They'll come out, take a look, and give you an honest assessment. No pressure, no gimmicks, just straight talk from the pros. Plus, they work with your insurance company to make sure you get the coverage you deserve. So don't wait until the next big storm hits. Give Colorado's Best Roofing a call today, 303-797-7663, or visit them at roofingcolorado.com. That's 303-797-7663 or roofingcolorado.com. Trust the best, Colorado's Best Roofing. Let's go to Jim, Denver. Jim, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Jim.
Hey, good morning, guys. I think you're putting too much on these self-sufficient immigrants who don't need government services. If they're out there finding their own food sources, that means they're not going into your pocket through the government system taking from you. All right. So now I think the real problem is that Americans don't like working. Try this. Go down to Castle Pines and find any 5-year-old and ask them if they want to be a plumber when they grow up. Okay, so or do something with their hands. They'll look at you like it's offensive. They know that work is for immigrants. Any 5-year-old in Castle Pines understands that work is for immigrants. And Castle Pines is not a liberal bastion, stronghold. Castle Pines is very conservative, and their children are taught that work is for immigrants and work is not success in America. So we got problems.
Yeah, Jim, I appreciate the call. Do you think that the truth about what's happening, though, in Springfield and Aurora is getting out? Or do you think it's getting all muddled in this presidential campaign and media that's trying to drive an agenda?
It's an election year. Everybody is lying about everything to get your donations and to get your vote in the end. So I don't believe a darn thing the Captain Bankruptcy from Manhattan says to win over conservatives in Castle Pines. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Jim, I appreciate the call.
They're going to vote for him.
Yeah.
Jim's line will be open 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971. Let's go to Nick in Denver. Good morning, Nick.
Good morning. The issue to me is very simple. You cannot have a viable country if you can't control your borders and don't control who comes in and who leaves. You just can't. And the real problem, a lot of people like to point the finger at the government, but the government is a reflection of us. And we've gotten very, very lazy physically and mentally in this country. Not everybody, but too many people in the last generation. And to tie into what the previous caller said about the work ethic, that's largely true. It is changing slowly. People like Mike Rowe, and I'm sure you know about him and his, dirty job program that he had on TV. But the government is a reflection of us, and we're realizing that we've gotten very lazy physically and spiritually and mentally, and hopefully we can turn things around fast enough before things completely fall apart.
Yeah, I mean, it's an issue that is the top issue in this campaign, and something that Kamala is desperately trying to move to the middle on with regards to how she's going to be the president. But look, when Biden and Harris were the president, especially on this, putting people on flights from Haiti, okay, they implemented this plan without congressional approval. The attorney generals of 19 states, I think, are suing them over it. But it resulted in essentially 200,000 Haitians coming into America, and they're claiming that they're vetted and that we've done a little bit of background search into them. But I mean, why is it? Help me understand, Nick, why the Democrats are so invested in bringing people into this country.
Because, in my opinion, the Democratic Party of John Kennedy and Harry Truman, they don't exist anymore. The Democratic Party is a misnomer. It is a hardcore communist Leninist party that wants to transform this country by destroying it from the inside out. And what better way to do that than have an uncontrolled river of these people who are not vetted. I can tell you horror stories of what's happening in the school system. Just the other day, a person living in our apartment complex told me that their school had asked them for an additional $550 donation on top of all the other taxes they pay to help them pay for all the immigrants.
Yeah, well, the ESL issue is a really big issue. We had Barb Kirkmeyer on here because of federal law, because you are mandated to educate every child in this country. You've got to educate them. And if they can't speak English, you've got to find an interpreter. Exactly. And that's happened in Springfield. It's happened here in Colorado, where they're going to now allocate millions of dollars to address that issue. But I still want to understand, what's the point?
Yeah, because what I want to ask is, you said that the issue is that the Democrats are full-on communist Marxists, and they're bringing in the immigrants. Okay, hang on. And you said they're bringing in the immigrants to fulfill their destiny and their dream. Hang on, Nick. Walk me through this. How does bringing in a bunch of immigrants get them to their communist Marxist goals? How?
First of all, they can tell these immigrants that we were the ones that brought you to this country, and it's the government that's paying for everything, and therefore we want your vote.
Okay, but Nick, they're not forcing them to vote. They can say, we want your vote. Politicians do that all the time. Nick, politicians do that all the time, and you're aware of that. And we have a whole bunch of Republicans that say right now they're not going to vote for Trump, and we've got some Democrats that aren't going to support Harris right now. So people still are free to make their own choice. Help me understand how the immigrants make communism work in America.
Because it makes it easier for the Democratic Party to get their vote. It makes it easier. They can come to the immigrants and say, look, we're the party that gave you all this stuff. We're the party that brought you into this country and gave you a new lease on life and a chance to better your life while you're around.
Yeah. So Nick, what I'm hearing from you is that the Democrats are going to come to the immigrants and saying, look, we gave you the American dream, the opportunity to come to this country and to make your life better. And that's why you now need to be communists, which is the opposite of the American dream. But Nick, you're arguing that they're going to make the play about the American dream in order to take away the American dream. That's silly. I mean, I'm sorry, but that is silly.
Well, then give me a reason why they're allowing this. You tell me why do you think this is happening?
Because we have space, we can have the economy grow, and there are people elsewhere that are going through horrible things inside their country, and we want to make the American dream possible for them. You and I can disagree, and we can have all sorts of arguments about the process. I am not happy with this process, but I disagree that all of a sudden this has become Wally World and we need to hang a closed sign up at the border and say, sorry, turn around, America's closed, Moose out front should have told you. I disagree with that.
And look, I think that leftists are fundamentally locusts. Sorry. I just think that they move from one place of success to the next and destroy. They did it in Venezuela. They did it in San Francisco. They've done it in Denver. They move where there are resources. They consume the resources. Their policies are terrible. And you end up with destruction taking place. And that's what I just think they're doing to America, too. Here's the land of the free with all the great resources that capitalism and limited government built. And they're just moving systemically through it and destroying it.
But I don't see how the immigrants aren't having to participate in the capitalistic system. All those immigrants that moved into Springfield went and got jobs. I mean, there's some that are still receiving social support, but they're moving them out of it.
Look at what we did in Denver. We're out of money because we provided so many resources to the immigrants that came here.
Yeah, and I disagreed with that program, but that's not the idea that they're turning it into some sort of giant socialist issue. Mike Johnston hasn't turned Denver into a socialist or communist city. We can disagree with the social support services.
That's exactly what he's done. They're out of money, and if these immigrants were actually providing financial benefit to our community above what our taxes pay for in services, we wouldn't be having to implement another sales tax in Denver to raise another $100 million. They've run out of money.
That's a funding issue.
That's because the money's not coming in via taxes.
Mike Johnston is not advocating for a central planning system where he gets to tell the businesses how to run and what they get to produce. He's not advocating for that. That's a communist system. That's he's not talking about taking away the means of production.
These guys implemented
I know, but he's not
minimum
talking about
wage.
But that's not communism. Communism is about taking the means of production away from everybody else and having the state control it. That's not what Johnson's talking about.
I think they're on the path to that.
That's not, and Nick, that's not what the immigrants are doing. The immigrants are coming here and having to compete through capitalism. You can't get to communism by having them come here and say, well, they're here to chase the American dream, and we're going to have them compete with capitalism. You don't get to communism from there.
May I say something? I just gave you a hard example of a couple living down the corridor from us on another floor, having to fork out another $550 to give to the school system to pay for the immigrant kids there.
Nick, you
because
said
they're
Nick,
overwhelming the system.
Nick,
Don't
you said
understand that?
Nick,
there is a cost to everything.
Hey,
Don't
Nick,
you understand that?
Nick, let's review language. You said the school asked for a donation, right?
Well, it's not a
Right?
donation. I take that back.
How?
They
Hang
have
on.
to come up with that
What are
money.
they? Okay, what is the bill? What's the bill they were sent?
First of all, it was $150 at the beginning of the year, and
For
it's
what?
another $550.
Again,
pay
for
all the
what? No, Nick, hang on a second.
services.
Nick, in order to, again, Jeff has 4 kids in school. I have kids in school. I'm sorry. I guess you would have kids in school at some point. The school doesn't just send you a bill and say, hey, we need you to pay us an extra $550 now. It's attached to fees and services. You have to tell me and explain to me what the fees and services there were attached.
Because
and
the
that would be the
classes
issue.
are being, the teachers can't have, they need the extra resources to deal with all these, with the influx of these kids.
Yeah, but Nick, there is a legislative mechanism that the schools have to go through in order to get more tax money from the base.
You what you told me.
Yeah, no,
and
but
don't
I
think
know
you
what I'm
lied to
telling
me.
you is just like, and I believe that what you told us at the beginning was true, that it was asking for a donation. They were looking for extra support. They were looking for extra charity from anybody in the community because their budgets are tight. I acknowledge that, but it's not when you claimed that that it was a bill that the student would not be allowed. Hang on a sec. Unless that student is not allowed through the doors of the school, unless that money's paid, it's not a bill. So you're going to have to come back. You're going to have to. No, Nick, I do see the big picture. No, Nick, I do see the big picture because unless that student is prevented from going to school based on non-payment, it's not a bill. So check with your friend and come back and tell us whether or not it's a bill. It's that simple because you started out with it being a donation. And there are all sorts of schools across the Denver metro area that ask for donations. Some of them are religious, some of them are charters, and some of them are public schools. Yes, but that's not a bill.
All right. Did you just feel the country change a little bit? It's 7:30. It's now actually 7:32. And students all over the world, or actually all over America, just started to pray. Because do you know what today is?
No, I don't. What?
It's See You at the Pole.
Oh, nice.
See You at the Pole is a student-led global prayer gathering. This began organically in 1990 when 10 Texas teens gathered at their school to pray. Today, millions of students worldwide participate in See You at the Pole. At our kids' school, it started at 7:30, which was just 3 minutes ago. The worldwide prayer rally occurs every year on the 4th Wednesday in September. The sole purpose of the gathering is for students to pray. They pray for their friends, teachers, school families, and the nation. And that happened just about 3 minutes ago.
Love that idea. I love that because it's a sense of larger community. It's a sense of something that is larger than yourself. It's a sense of you belonging to something that is larger than yourself. And that there's something bigger out there than just your selfish nature on the inside. I love that. It's fantastic.
And people praying. So a little hat tip to all of you students out there gathering around the world to pray. And that just happened at 7:30. So thanks for doing that. Thanks for bringing God back into our schools. I appreciate that. We'll get to Mary in just a second. Gosh, we got a lot to cover, and that was a fun exchange. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour, I'm Christina Wyo in Dallas, and here are your top stories.
Governor Greg Abbott announcing this week that he's offering a reward of up to $5,000 for information leading to the identification and arrest of known or suspected members of the violent Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua, TDA, who pose an increasing danger to the safety of people who live in Texas. Abbott saying TDA has spread terror and carnage in every country they've been in, and Texas will not allow them to gain a foothold in the state, adding that, quote, Texas will not let these thugs use our state as a base of operations to terrorize our citizens. He is encouraging anyone with any information to call the Texas Crime Stoppers hotline or submit an anonymous tip online, saying that with the public's help, they will capture these dangerous gang members and put them behind bars for good. Constellation Energy and Microsoft plan to restart the 3 Mile Island nuclear plant, hoping they have scored a quick source of enough climate-friendly energy to power rapidly expanding data centers for artificial intelligence. U.S. power generation capacity through the end of the decade could rise by about 2.4% to 2.7%. Data center power use is expected to more than double by 2030, consuming about 9% of all the country's electricity. Across the country, including in some of the nation's presidential swing states, new or recently altered state laws are changing how Americans will vote, tally ballots, and administer and certify November's election.
In Dallas, Christina Weil, Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Springfield, Ohio, Aurora, Colorado. Didn't expect those to be the major cities discussed in this year's presidential election, but here we are. Question I had prior to the break: why? Why? What is the motivation for Democrats who not just be pro-immigrant? I think most Americans are fine with immigrants coming through legally, being a part of it, going through the process. But what's the fascination with flying in 200,000 Haitians via that little flight program that they implemented like a year and a half ago?
So they don't drown crossing the ocean. And it's the
right.
process. And the program,
like
is it allows them to declare and ask for refugee status, etc. And it's a legal program in Haiti, and then they are brought here.
200,000.
I know,
and then 10 million illegal immigrants coming over since the Biden
No, we can talk about the illegal immigrants, etc. But 200,000 is nothing as far as a population over the course of a 300
to the city of Springfield. 20,000 was quite a lot.
But they're doing well. I mean, if you talk to the employers, you talk to people in town. Yes,
some capacity.
The economy,
but they're dealing with a lot of challenges there.
Other things, yeah, there are lots of challenges, but that's part of what happens when you have an immigrant population with 200,000 people in a country of 325 million. That is nothing. That is absolutely nothing. That is less than a drop in the bucket.
But why? What's the fascination? Help me understand why Democrats are so intent on bringing other people into this country. Like, I understand. Like, we have a process. It's not saying we don't have a process. But we're building all these other processes to bring lots of more people in.
But the Haitian immigrants are part of the process. They didn't go over
but
it.
That was a new process, and they got sued for it.
But again, it is part of the legal process to bring them in at the time. And I understand getting sued for it, but then we need to argue about changing the process. The impression is always given that they're bringing in all of these illegal immigrants, that the Democrats are like, hey, all the illegals come in. That's not really what's happening at all.
10 million? That's not what was happening at all?
No, I'm saying it's not like the Democrats are just saying all the illegal immigrants can come in no matter what and anything else. And part of it is once they show up.
That's exactly what they're saying.
No, because when people show up at the border, most of the people that are coming into the country are claiming asylum. The larger portion of the body,
like 80% of them are not granted asylum. It's a total scheme.
But it's our process that's broken. We need to fix that process for the asylum process. That's what that's what you're mad about. That's legitimately what it is.
No, what they're doing is abusing the asylum process, coming in, claiming asylum, getting a court date 3 years from now, and then 80% of them are not approved for asylum.
I'd have to look at the 80% number, but even then, that's about the process. That means why should they be here for 3 years? And we need to fix the process to adjudicate that within 6 months. And then take
or go back to Trump's asylum process in the state that you want to leave from or the country you want to leave from.
Yeah, but there's never going to be a way to enforce that because you can't force Mexico to do that. You can't force these other countries to do that. You
can shut down the border.
No, again, you're back to the Wally World example. Just close the border. Sorry, moose outside should have told you America's full. And that's an odd thing given the history of America. It's also an odd thing. I mean, I don't hate to pull this out, but that's another issue to this, but that's okay.
But I mean, that's kind of what I'm getting at here is like we have a process by which people enter this country. And gosh, those people that follow that process are great. They're wonderful. I met a lady the other day, just got married, went through the whole green card process. She's working.
Guess what,
all that stuff. That's fine. I don't understand this. So in the midst of having a process that people can follow, we're to 10 million other people.
They are
just come over.
Here's the thing. The vast majority of the immigrants that are following the process, they show up at the port of entry and claim asylum.
They're not following the process. They're walking here. That is the
process. But that's the process.
They're abusing the process.
No, the process is if you arrive at the point of entry, you can claim asylum. That's the process. If you're mad about the process, change the process. That's it. I've been arguing about this for years. If this is the problem, change the process.
We changed the process, and then the Democrats dropped it. The process was if you're in a country, you seek and you want to seek asylum, you do it from the country you're leaving from. And the Democrats changed that, and it's essentially have an open border that 10 million people have walked across.
No, the border hasn't been open. That's okay. It's not. I understand this idea that there's been nothing. People have been sent back. That's just not necessarily true. But I understand why, because the problem that I'm hearing from this is that what we're trying to do is we're trying to find a group to other. We're trying to find a group that we don't like, that we disagree with, and they're the people that we are going to say cause all our problems. That's what we're hearing.
I don't think that's the case.
Hang on a sec. Let's walk through this. What are the arguments that JD Vance and Donald Trump were making? That these Haitian immigrants are so untoward. They can't possibly be civilized. They're actually eating your pets. They're othering the group. They're saying the reason that your life sucks, the reason that Springfield was having all these problems was because of the other. That's what this is about at the core. Donald Trump is trying to give you someone to be afraid of and someone to hate.
I disagree. What is happening is a massive stress is being put upon the American people by this Democrat love affair, which is pouring people into our country. I think they fundamentally want to change the country. And I think you can look no further than Denver to see that, where we put up a giant sign that says, I heart immigrants. We don't have the money to provide basic services for the citizens. We spent so much money providing services to illegal immigrants that they now got to implement another sales tax upon the citizens of Colorado or citizens of Denver just to be able to pay for this.
Yeah, but that's
they had
on
to
Mike
take
Johnston
money.
for
They had to
stupid
take money
programs.
out of the general fund for the educational burden that this has brought on, the funding that's brought on our educational system.
That's on Mike Johnston.
This isn't othering other people.
Yes, it is. It is
this
othering
is
other people.
looking at the actual costs to our community and going, what is with the fascination of just bringing 10 million people into this country and making everybody here pay for it?
Well, the issue being because we're a nation of immigrants. And many of these people have shown
We
up
have
at the
a process,
border,
and they're not following it.
Yes, they are. They're claiming asylum. You need to fix the asylum process. They're claiming asylum.
They're abusing the asylum process.
But still, you got to fix it.
They want to be here, and that's the green ticket to get in.
As soon as they show up at the point of entry and claim asylum, they become temporary legal citizens. If you're mad about that, change it. Change it.
I'm changing it, but I'm also asking why the Democrats are so fascinated with this. All right, we got to get to Mary, and we're up against the break. We'll continue. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Well, there are times when I plan a show, and then there are times when Bill and I just get going.
Just get going. It's so much fun.
I love the Iggy's text message here. The reason Springfield's really having problems is that they don't have a monorail.
That is a good one. That is good. Oh, I have to see if I can find that audio. I'll have to see if I can find it.
Monorail.
Yeah.
Monorail. That was one of the best Simpsons
that was
episodes.
one of the best ones. Yeah, from Music Man. Yes, that is one of the best.
Guy comes in to try to sell monorails. All right. Lots of calls. Let's see. Let's get to Mary, Wyoming. Always good to hear from Mary. Good morning, Mary. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Good morning. Good morning. The thing that I want, it's interesting because I doubted myself whether I was going to call in on this one because it seems like I'm always involved in the crazy stuff.
That's why we love you.
But yeah, right. But my comment is what I think is not being considered. I grew up in Louisiana, and there was the Haitian, back generation before, I'm talking about what we're dealing with now. And the Haitians, they have strange behaviors than we do. In other words, they had voodoo and they used animal sacrifice. And you're coming from the people of Haiti, from the Haitians now, and they still have voodoo in their culture. So when I heard the story, I did not, based on, I know even previous generations that the Haitians were here, that they practiced they considered it a religion, and they practiced it. Mostly and I want to say other generations that had come here, they used the chickens more than they did. But I mean, pigs were not unusual. Cats were not unusual for them to sacrifice in their religion. And you had to not understand. The reason that they used animal sacrifice was it was a way of generating good, what they considered positive things that, we use with affirmation kind of things.
One of the realities is that Haiti is not a good country to live in right now. It's just not.
No.
And it has systemic cultural problems. It has political problems. It has gang violence. It has drug problems. It has all that, but it has systemic cultural problems. And we picked up 200,000 of them and brought them to the United States. Now, I sure hope they assimilate, because the key is assimilation. If you end up with communities where they don't, and they essentially build little Haitis or little Venezuelas or little Afghanistans
or little Italy, like it's in New York, or Chinatown,
right?
Like it's in San Francisco, New York.
Those assimilated, right?
I know, but hang on.
But that's part of the assumption. Part of the assumption is that they will build in.
But your aspersion is they can't, and we have no indication they can't. Just like when Mary is talking about the voodoo, that's fine, but you know what they don't do inside the voodoo is steal other people's pets. That's different. It's not.
No, they would use strays. I mean, what I knew from that period of time, they didn't go. I mean, I guess I didn't recognize how strong pet, et cetera. I'm just saying, there's enough strays in those different areas that they were in that's how they got there.
Yeah, but not necessarily in Springfield, and that's the issue. And these are the same things that were said about the Vietnamese when they came in here in the late 70s and 80s. Same
Mary,
things.
Appreciate the call, but the key is always going to be assimilation. It has to be. You have to embrace American culture. If you don't embrace American culture, you're going to help destroy
which has been
this
the
country.
Arguments against immigrants for decades.
All right, you're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
At this hour, I'm Christina Wyo in Dallas, and here are your top stories.
Data released by the Pennsylvania State Department this week revealed that the majority of registered voters in Lucerne County are now Republicans. This is the first time since 1970 that the GOP has led in the county in registrations. According to local media, 87,415 of the county's almost 204,000 registered voters are Republicans, and 87,332 are Democrats. There are also about 28,000 unaffiliated or third-party voters. The Democrats' hold on the county has been declining since 2014. The county's Republican Party saying they are excited that their work is getting out and being heard, but they realize there is much work to do before the November 5th election. The chief executive over Georgia's two booming seaports said that a strike next week by dock workers across the U.S. East and Gulf Coast appears likely, though he's hopeful the resulting shutdown would last only a few days. U.S. ports from Maine to Texas are getting ready for the potential shutdown in a week as the union representing 45,000 dock workers in that region has threatened to strike starting October 1st. That's when the contract expires between the International Longshoremen's Association and the United States Maritime Alliance, which represents the ports. A strike would shut down 36 ports that handle about half the nation's cargo from ships.
That's what you need to know at this hour. In Dallas, Christina Weil, Salem News Channel.
Insults disguised as compliments, man. That's the heck of a show.
So on brand.
Well, welcome. It is 8 a.m. in the Mile High City, and you've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on this Wednesday, September 25th, 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Congratulations. It's a beautiful day in the greatest country in history. And we're gearing up for a whole nother hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab a cup of coffee, Denver. Let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. We've got a lot of news to cover, everything from Harris and her support of legalized prostitution. That's what our country needs right now. My goodness. Romney and his personal feelings about Donald Trump. He's actually concerned that Trump may have to go after his family if he gets elected again.
Yeah, he's been talking about taking revenge. And does that mean he has an enemies list? And is Mitt Romney on that? And is he in the top 10?
And all I say about that is Donald Trump was on Mitt Romney's enemies list. You live by the sword, you die by the sword. That guy made it personal. And Trump might make it personal back at him. So we'll have to see. But interesting article in The Atlantic. We'll get to that as well. And then we'll continue this conversation about the immigration issue. Springfield, Ohio, Aurora, Colorado. Is Trump coming? We haven't gotten any other details. And Polis has some words for Trump on that, by the way. But we'll get to all that in a second. Let's check in on news and comment with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning. Hey, wait a minute. I always thought you guys were talking the last hour. I thought asylum laws, don't you have to be in the neighboring country? If you're separated by another country, do the asylum laws exist? Do you
Yeah,
guys
they do.
know?
Yeah, I
They
mean,
do?
it is.
Hey, you
it
can
is
just show up
technical.
at our border and
Yeah,
claim asylum.
technically, you are supposed to claim asylum at the very next country, but no one enforces it. No one listens to it, and it has
Okay.
been like that for decades upon decades upon decades. And
Got it.
part of it being, and in all honesty, part of it being that if you were in El Salvador or Nicaragua or Venezuela, if you were going to come and claim asylum, America is absolutely your number one choice. And then maybe Mexico, because you look at all the problems you have in the other countries. So that's part of it is, and it just hasn't been.
Well,
enforced.
that's what needs to be changed then, right?
Well,
This
is what would happen is if they did start enforcing the fact that you claim asylum at the very first country you get to, what would happen is you would have people showing up at the American consulate in those countries claiming asylum, and then we would have to process them that way. It would just change where they would go. I know,
but I mean, and Blake, this is, I want to ask you this question. Because Republicans are not anti-immigrant.
No.
We're not out there going, shut down all immigrant processes. All that stuff. What we don't like is this just kind of come on in approach that the Democrats have with 10 million coming. Help me understand why Democrats want this to happen to America.
Well,
what's the motivation for what Mike Johnston did to Denver, where you've now got to add a sales tax to pay for Denver Health and all the problems, the financial problems they're going through? So
because
he
really cares about those people? Absolutely not. So it is all numbers, right? That's it.
I think it's numbers, and I think at the end of the day, the left are they're locusts. They consume resources wherever they go and destroy. Like, what is the benefit of what they have done to San Francisco, to California, where people are fleeing the state right now? You know, Gavin Newsom, number one U-Haul seller in America.
Yeah, what is the benefit?
They go and you can't honestly look at these communities and go, thank God for what I did. Look at how wonderful my community is since I made these decisions. Instead, they sit there and they destroy. So I'm wondering, is this what's happening to America right now? And I understand the critique from Bill that, you know, we've had communities moved in. We had the Venezuelans and the Poles, and we had European Jews, and we've had the Irish, and you've had communities come in, and the Italians. And I understand there was stress on the system when they moved in. And there was challenges getting the communities to live together, and there was frustration. That's part of what happens here. But there's an underlying assumption in that theory that I want to challenge. And the underlying assumption is that that's naturally going to happen again. And so we can just do it with 10 million people now.
Yeah, but you can't do it if the common denominator is not the passion to want to become a patriotic American.
If that's not there, you will end up with some of the challenges they have in Europe. Where you end up with these communities that look like
I have a question.
They reflect
your country is destroyed.
I got a question. I got a question. One of the people that Jeff talked to down at the apartment complex talked about how she went through 7 countries and walked through a jungle.
Was raped all along the way too.
Yeah,
it was horrible.
So I'm just
horrific.
Curious. Yeah, and she did that to get to America.
Yeah.
Tell me that's not commitment. Tell me that's not a
it's
desire
commitment
to be
for
here.
her.
Well, hang on a
It's
second.
because she wants to better her life. But what does she want to do for the United States of America?
Okay.
So what
this
is
is the problem. This is the problem that I've got is that we had someone, she made a tremendous sacrifice. She left her kids behind in order to come to America.
Good.
And
there are people in Eastern Europe who want to do the same thing.
And that's what you two advocated for. Yet in that case with her, she's not good enough. In fact, you question.
I didn't say she's not good enough.
Yes, you said, what is she going to contribute and what's she going to bring to America? She did
first
exactly
of all,
he asked that question.
She went through 7 countries, through a jungle, and left her kids behind. To me, that's commitment to want to be here in America. I doubt we could find 1,000 people in Colorado that would be willing to do the same thing.
Maybe not.
go through the
Maybe
same
not. It
thing
depends
in order
on
to
the
get to these borders
situation.
of
I mean,
America.
it
That's the
depends on
problem.
how hungry you are,
I
how
know.
poor you are,
Yeah.
how desperate you are.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point.
no, it's a horrific thing.
Yeah,
So
that's my
you know
point.
who you blame? You blame communists. You blame communists and leftists in Venezuela.
Destroyed her country.
They've destroyed her life and her country, and they've destroyed the globe decade after decade after decade. That's who you destroy. And you try, you gotta, I mean, not everyone can come to America. How about taking the values of America and try to utilize those and do the same thing in these other beautiful countries that could be great countries, but communism and corruption takes over.
The problem is what we view as those American values and things that we are trying to export, because we have a whole list of countries in South America in which we have upended their electoral system and their government system.
Absolutely,
based on us wanting our own thing.
But here's what we've learned recently,
difficult.
guys. Here's what we've learned recently, and Yoram Hazony writes about this in his book, as to essentially why democracy didn't take in Afghanistan and Iraq. Because the underlying culture would not allow for it.
Yes.
Right. So if we can try to export democracy,
it's culture.
Okay. But it's culture. And if the culture is not willing to embrace those values that made America great, their cultures, whether it's Venezuela or Afghanistan, are not going to develop well. So here's what we're now doing. We're deciding to import millions of people from these countries that don't have the culture to embrace what makes America great and put them in our country. We're not talking about, like, you look at Ellis Island, it was 12 million over 62 years. And then we did 10 million in 4 years. And I think we're making the same mistake that we did by believing that if we just got involved in these other countries, they would just embrace. They're just going to embrace democracy. Little girls are going to go to school in Afghanistan.
Right.
And now we're importing the people that won't embrace American values into our country with the expectation that they are, because they didn't build it there.
You didn't know that. You don't know that. You have no idea.
200,000 Haitians that come from a broken country we put in this country, and they're just pseudo-Americans. They're just secret Americans. They just needed the chance to get here. Just like with Afghanistan, if we just gave them the chance to have democracy, everything would work out. If we just bring the Haitians here, if we just bring the Venezuelans here, everything's going to work out. I think it's the same fundamental flaw thinking that got us into Afghanistan and Iraq.
You just made the blanket statement that all 200,000 of those Haitians don't have any interest in participating in American democracy.
Do you know?
Nor, hang on a sec.
Do you know?
Based on what I'm seeing in Springfield, yes, they do want to. They're there, they're working, they're showing up. We have employers there saying they would hire 30 more Haitian immigrants tomorrow if they could, because guess what? They show up on time, they don't take sick days, and they don't show up drunk or on drugs. And they have
why didn't they do this in Haiti?
Maybe the majority.
Why didn't they build this in Haiti? They got here, and then all of a sudden they just needed the chance, and look how great they are. Didn't you just do it in Haiti.
Didn't you just say the country's broken?
But who's the country made up of?
I know, but hang on a sec. But these are people that were in a broken country. They may or may not have had agency over the ability to change there. There could have been too much corruption. So they came here to chase what appears to be the American dream. They're not having this huge negative impact yet because you see them from another country. What I'm hearing from you is they can't possibly want what America has, despite the fact that they asked for asylum and came here.
I don't understand.
Of them are here working.
I don't understand
America,
why they didn't do
rules.
it. I didn't understand why they didn't do it in their home country.
They may not have the power or the ability to do it because of the corruption. It would be like walking down to the people at the apartment complex in Aurora and saying, why didn't you take over your own building? Why did you let these gang members come in here and do it to you? Is it their fault? That's what you're saying. It's their fault. It's the Haitians' fault.
I don't say it's their fault. I agree with you.
The apartment complex people's fault. They got taken over. That's what you're saying.
I'm not saying it's their fault.
If you go to Haiti, you can go to 30 to 50 more countries with the same situations. I mean,
I don't know if I'd say 30 to 50, but that's just keep going.
Well, I mean, I think I could probably sit down and look at different situations where there are 30 to 50 countries where people are desperate and are up against corruption and fear for their lives, and they want to be here. And if if you do that for every country, you can't take on the world. You can't. You can export the values that we have and pray that they turn their country around, which is what we hope. But culturally, you just can't do it. I mean, there's a reason. Once again, I've talked about this before. Dominican Republic shares the island with Haiti. I mean, if they had the thinking that you had, they would not have a country anymore. The culture of Dominican Republic would be destroyed. So they have sovereign borders between Haiti and DR, and they have a system. Everybody in Haiti wants to go to DR because it's like heaven, even though it's a developing country.
And they're the same island.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. They share the same island. They
I have
share
a question.
Yeah.
A question. So, when the Pilgrims came across in the Mayflower, why did they come here? What were they doing?
They were trying to have freedom,
religious
freedom.
That's weird. Why didn't they stay in their own country and change it there? Isn't that the argument?
Yeah,
they should have obviously stayed in England and changed it if they had a problem with the government, if they had a problem with how they were being treated, if they felt that they weren't being respected. Your argument is
they feared for their lives.
They should have stayed home and fixed it.
Were there 10 million of them?
That's not the argument.
No, that's part of the consequence.
No,
we're not dealing with small pockets of people like a boat full of pilgrims that are trying to come to a brand new country. You're dealing with a systemic effort by Democrats in this country to bring in millions of people. And my question is, are those millions of people similar to the pilgrims that are seeking religious freedom?
Yeah, but it didn't work out so well for the Native Americans that were here. So that didn't happen at all. So
I feel like
I know exactly, because you're saying they should have stayed at home and they should have fixed things there, and that's what they should have done. That was the better thing. That they should have been there. They shouldn't have ever come to this country. They should have stayed at home. That they were wrong, just like the Haitians and everybody else.
200,000 Haitians that are just secret Americans with our values.
Not
good,
secret.
hardworking people. They have, but they're just in the wrong country. They're Americans with American values. They just happen to be in the wrong country, and we pulled them out of Haiti and put them in this country, and that's going to make Haiti better. It's going to make America better. And you think that's who those Haitians actually are? You think they're just little secret Americans?
Here's the thing: is you're casting aspersions based on the idea they're secret Americans. I disagree with that as a characterization. That's not what I said at all. I said they're coming here to chase an American dream, not that they're tiny Americans. That's silly. That is silly. That is silly on its face.
There's nothing wrong with them chasing an American dream.
But we don't like it, though. We don't like it
when you drop them out of airplanes all at one time. Anyone. It doesn't matter if they're Norwegians.
That's not even
if you drop them out of airplanes, that's what they did.
No, it
isn't.
They
put them in.
If they're chasing, they're not just chasing the American dream. The underlying argument is that they are embracing American values, and they just happen to be in the wrong country. And so we pulled 200,000 out.
It's not they just happened to be in the wrong country. They wanted a better shot. They wanted a different shot than what was going on in their country, just like when the Pilgrims came across and landed on this country. Same thing. They were looking for the same thing. But according to our argument,
I don't think they're necessarily looking for the same thing. And I think part of the underlying assumption is that they have the same culture.
And that is the argument that is made against immigrants for over 150 years in this country. Same argument.
And,
it doesn't matter.
The only reason
it
works.
We can change if it was Italy. We can change if it was Irish. We can change if it was Chinese. We can change if it was Vietnamese.
The reason it worked with those other communities is that they assimilated. We don't have a little Italy that looks like Italy anymore.
But
it looks more like America.
But the argument at the time over and over again is these immigrants aren't going to assimilate. The same argument you're making now was made in the 70s, was made in the 80s, was made in the 60s, was made in the 50s, was made in the 30s, was made in the 10s, was made in the 1890s, was made in the 1870s.
But the motives of those people,
then, it's wrong now.
The motives of those people getting those individuals here are not what the motives that you and Jeff and I have. Hey, you want to become an American? That's awesome. We want you to become a proud American and embrace all the greatness here. But the motives of the people who are importing these individuals are not the motives that you and I and Jeff have. It is simply to either to destroy everything that we're about, or for votes alone, for total control and chaos.
Yeah. Someone's still going to have to explain to me how the immigrants end up destroying the country on it, but that's
well,
another day.
Bill, in those arguments in the 60s, 70s, 80s, whatever, Venezuelans, Italians, Poles, Irish, whatever, they assimilated. So the argument was you couldn't just have a little Ireland. You needed to become an American. And that's the argument coming now. If you're going to bring in Haitians, 200,000 of them, you can't have little Hades.
But no, that was
the
argument.
You need to become an American.
No, actually, back in the day, there was pushback on the immigration because of things like having Chinatown and Little Italy, and the fact that they were isolating inside their communities.
And do you have little communist Chinatowns? No, they're essentially little American.
They were still
Chinese
using their language. They were still using their culture. They weren't assimilating into America. This is an argument that has been made for over 100 years in this country. It's just the only thing that changes is the noun.
And the argument being, you have to assimilate. No, and those communities did.
No, but
they did.
Hang on.
You can't have little Hades.
At the time, the argument is these immigrants come from a different culture and they can't assimilate. It's the same argument being made now by the Haitians, despite the fact that we have no indication they're not assimilating into America. We have no indication. But that's the aspersion that is being cast right now over and over again. It is the same tired trope from over 100 years ago. The only thing that changes is the noun. It's just the who we're going to other. That's the problem with this argument.
Here's my biggest problem. We already have a system. We have a system, but they destroyed the system on purpose. I mean, we've come up to all the way up to this point. We've advanced and we've developed and everything, and we have a system. But what does the left do? They go in and just crush it. They just blow it up on purpose to create havoc, chaos, and hell for everyone, including the lady from Venezuela who went through 6 countries or whatever and left her family back there. Please, I mean, give me a break. They don't care about her. We care about her more than they care about her. And they got her here.
Yeah, you care, but we care about her so much we don't want her here. That's the issue.
Well, no, I didn't say I don't want her here. I feel horrible that she's here because culturally she's better off back there with her family, because we can't take care of everyone. We just can't. Our privilege is the fact that we woke up in this country, like Jeff says, every morning, and we just can't. My heart breaks for her, but we know a lot of people like that.
There are underlying assumptions that are fueling a new policy change that we don't know where it's going to go. All right. So we look at Ellis Island and we go, look, we're a country of immigrants. We brought them all in. Okay. That was 12 million over 62 years. And there's generally a process that we looked at people before they came into this country. Then you've had Vietnamese that came in, and then you've had Chinese, and you've had Poles, and you've had Irish, and you've had Germans, and you've had all these different peoples come in. Okay. And so we look at our history and we go, well, originally they had challenges, but they all assimilated eventually. So what we're going to do is now bring in numbers of people on a scale this country has never seen. We're not going to vet them. We're going to allow them to pour across the border. We did in 4 years, 10 million illegal immigrants when Ellis Island did 12 million in 62 years. So what I'm challenging are these underlying assumptions that just because, well, in the past they came in, it was a smaller number. Yeah, there were people that were concerned about them, but they eventually assimilated. And we're putting that lens upon something this country has never seen before and just assuming that it's all going to work out, because in the past with smaller numbers and with people that did assimilate, it did work out. And I think there's a real question as to whether or not it will. Because in the city of Denver right now, we're having to raise a whole lot of more money to deal with the consequences of 40,000 or 4,000 illegal immigrants that came into this city. I don't. My numbers are so mixed up. I don't know my numbers at this point. But
yeah, who paid?
We
for
brought
all
them all
this?
in. We ran out of money. We're now having to raise taxes on the citizens that are here, and we keep jumping back to like 1850, going, well, it's Ellis Island. We brought people in the past. I'm sure this will all just work out in itself, and eventually we'll assimilate. It'll all work out. Don't worry about it. We're bringing in people at numbers we've never seen before from countries that don't share our values, and we're all just hoping it works out.
Yep. No doubt. Thank you, guys. And that's the news at 22 minutes after hour. I'll do a quick version of the news here so you guys can get back to it. Thanks, Billy and Jeff. 52 and sunny in Denver, expecting a high of 88 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story, something to think about while you're driving. More Coloradans are buckling up. CDOT is out with its study showing seatbelt usage rates have increased by 7% over the last decade and remains at 88%. 15 counties top 90%. The highest rates are in Eagle, Douglas, Grand, Fremont, and Park County. CDOT says they think people are finally starting to realize the importance of wearing a seatbelt no matter where they are going. Don't expect another big Tabor check next year. Tax refunds will now be based on income, and the Colorado Legislative Council estimates a much lower amount. Those filing on their own can expect between $181 and $571. The range doubles for joint filers, but projections show those numbers shrinking even more over the next 4 years. The report also says that the state's economy will likely expand at a slightly lower pace in 2025. All right, it's 48 in Castle Rock. It's 50 in North Glen. 52 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue on this Wednesday. Blake Olson News Talk 710 KNUS.
And since we're doing things completely and totally backwards, thanks, Blake, for the time this morning. I am going to chat with you about my friends at Balance Well Space. Yeah, I know that some of that conversation we just had was a little bit painful, but I want to talk about the pain that you're in daily. I have been living my life up until recently in tremendous pain. It wasn't a matter of what hurts. It was just a matter of how much. I was never going to be below a level of about 4 or 5 on a daily basis. And I just thought that's what happens when you get old. I had seen the older men in my life wander around and go, oh, this hurts. Oh, this pain. Oh, I can't do this. I can tell the weather's changing. I thought this is just what happens. I didn't know it doesn't. I'm now living my life pain-free thanks to my friends at Balance Well Space. And I want you to talk to them as well, because they can take that pain you're dealing with on a daily basis and make it go away. If it's neuropathic problems, physical rehabilitation, if it's chiropractic care, they do integrative medicine. Now, that's what's different about Balance Well Space. What does that mean? It means you have a one-stop shop. You've got chiropractic care, neuropathic care, physical rehabilitation, wave therapy, regenerative care, all under one roof. Plus, they have a lot of cutting-edge, just state-of-the-art treatments that are straight out of something like Star Trek. And they're all non-invasive, and they can make a tremendous change in your life. They did something called Synexus on my back, where they put a bunch of suction cups there attached to some sponges, and it ran electrical shocks through a lot of my muscles. What it did is it broke down some of the tight muscle structure that was giving me pain in my shoulder, my neck, and my lower back. It allowed those muscles to relax, and I got back to normal movement. I never would have thought of anything like that. That's how cutting edge they are. But if you don't talk to them, if you don't go to balancewellspace.com, they can't make this change in your life. They'll do a personal pain evaluation with you, take the pictures, ask the questions, and then put together a plan based on what you want to do, not just based on your pain. They're not about masking the symptoms. They're about getting you back to living your life the way you want to live it. Don't let that pain stop you anymore. And Balance Well Space is the medical team that can do this for you. Brand new offices in Lowry, right across the street from Hangar 2. Plenty of parking which is huge for me. I hate wandering around that parking lot all the time, and they've got wonderful shady trees. Also, Balance Well Space will reevaluate your care every couple of weeks to make sure that you're reaching your goals. They want to make sure the treatments that you're undergoing are having the effect that you want in your life. If it's not, they will change course. When's the last time your medical team ever discussed what was going on with your care? Yeah, they don't. And that's the difference. That's why you need to talk to my friends at Balance Well Space. As I'm sitting here talking to you, I'm currently regenerating the meniscus in my left knee, and I'm regenerating one of the discs in my lower back because two of my vertebrae are fusing together. And they're now giving me movement I haven't had in over a decade. If you don't talk to them, they can't make this change in your life. BalanceWellSpace.com, BalanceWellSpace.com. I want them to make the amazing change in your life they're doing in mine. Tell them you heard about it here on the Jeff and Bill Show because it helps us out.
Great to hear, Bill. Heading to the news.
At this hour, I'm Christina Wyo in Dallas, and here are your top stories.
Oregon elections officials said they removed more than 1,200 people from the state's voter rolls this week after discovering that they did not provide proof of U.S. citizenship when they were registered to vote. Of those found to be possibly ineligible, only 9 people voted in elections since 2021. The Oregon Secretary of State's office said county clerks are working to confirm whether those people were indeed ineligible when they cast their ballots or just hadn't provided the required documentation when they were registered to vote. The discovery comes as heightened scrutiny over voter rolls nationwide continues from Oregon to Arizona and Texas as the presidential election nears. The reason? Tens of millions of illegal migrants who have crossed
Welcome
the
back to
southern
the
border since the start of the Biden-Harris administration, raising concerns that illegal migrants are being registered to vote. Death row inmates in 5 states are scheduled to be put to death in the span of 1 week. If carried out as planned, the executions in Alabama, Missouri, Oklahoma, South Carolina, and Texas will mark the first time in more than 20 years that 5 were held in 7 days, according to the nonprofit Death Penalty Information Center.
Billy, for defending everything. And you just can't defend what's gone on at the border for the last 3.5 years, even though both parties are guilty. I want to give you that. And this idea, Billy, that these 200,000 Haitians, I believe you, there are probably some pretty special, some pretty gifted people. But Billy, if you took a poll, just gathered sort of a random 200,000 Americans, white ones, black ones, Chinese ones, I mean, what do you think you'd get out of a random 200,000 Americans? Character, quality of character, culture appropriateness. What do you think you'd get, Billy?
I think I would have a wide variety of people that come from a different socioeconomic backgrounds and would behave and have things based on what is happening in their life. I don't understand what this question is, because what I'm hearing from you, Marty, is this attempt again to other them. It's this attempt to say, these people aren't like us. So it's okay that I can denigrate them. It's okay that I can shut them out. It's okay that I can point. It's okay that I can cast aspersions on their behaviors, and I can make all sorts of inaccurate lies up about them because I want to other them, because I believe they're not the right kind of people. That's what I'm hearing from you.
But can't you critique culture? If we brought in how many Iranians, followers of the current regime of Iran, could we bring into America before you'd get concerned?
Here's the thing: those are two different statements. The statements of bringing Iranians versus followers of the current regime.
Yeah,
those are two separate. Populations.
Great. So there's at least a population of people that you'd be concerned bringing into this country.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wouldn't that be othering them?
Not necessarily, depending on why that concern is, because I'm not doing it as Marty is saying that it's just because they're from Haiti. It would have to do based on a specific background. Things like, I don't know, members in the Taliban. Then I would have some concern about bringing those people in. Would I have a concern about bringing in an Afghanistan person? No.
But there's a group of people that concerns you bringing them into this country.
Yeah, absolutely.
But isn't that othering them?
No, not when I put in the constraints inside of a certain socioeconomic group. That's not the same as saying this entire population. I am not broad brushing the population like others are. That's the issue. Marty, continue.
Yeah, but Billy, I'm saying make it easy. I'm saying take a random 200,000 people from all the nations. It doesn't matter. What we're talking about, though, is this is just this blind acceptance and then shoving it next door to American citizens that didn't sign up for any of this. See, it's all cute and it sounds good and feels good to be this woke, totally diverse guy like you're being, until they start voting, until they start breeding, until they start consuming
breeding.
Stuff
you're
that
concerned about that's a little jingoistic. That's really
we're
weird on that one,
about
Marty.
a housing crisis in America.
Yeah, guess what, Marty?
And we
guess
brought
what?
in 20 million people.
That's the
and
same.
they're
That's the
having
same.
kids.
It's the same argument that we heard from people that didn't want people coming in that were from China or from Italy or from Ireland or from.
So there's no cap on America. We could have 1 billion people in America at some point. It's all good. There's enough for all to go around. That's just not sane thinking, Billy. It's not true.
So,
either.
okay, so what's your number? How many can we sustain? What's your number?
Well, based on our homeless population and those living below sort of first world type expectations, we're way over capacity. We have too many people. We've got to start to reverse the trend.
We have too many people. We have too many people in America right now.
Correct.
Really?
And we know.
How do you?
Yeah.
And America's totally suffering because of that, right? Because we have what is the largest growth of the economy of the G7 nations right now. We have record profits for our corporations. That obviously seems like we're failing tremendously because of this immigrant population, though. Isn't that right, Marty?
In the same sentence, though, American consumer credit card debt is at all-time highs. This is fake. You think this is some great economy?
Wait, Marty, how's that the immigrants' problem? How is it the immigrants' problem? How is it the immigrants' problem that you're maxing out your credit cards? Help me understand that.
Okay. Because we have inflation. More people demanding the same amount of goods causes prices to go up. You know that already. And here we are talking about this unsustainable housing crisis, which is destroying the American dream. What on earth makes you think that a third worlder is going to be able to walk into America and live indoors, live in a home, when our own people, I hear, $2,700 for a 1-bedroom apartment? I don't think so. How can we encourage the third world into the first world and say, now you figured out? That's not fair to them either, Billy.
And I love the xenophobia that you weave into there, the fact that these are people that live outside because they're in the third world. Again, we understand that you view them as not being the same type of people. I understand you view them as not being worthwhile. They shouldn't be allowed in America because they're not worthwhile because they come from these countries and they couldn't possibly be assumed to act normal. We couldn't assume they're going to walk around and not eat pets or even have pants on. Oh my God! And also, you talk about birth rate. But America has a negative birth rate right now, and that's something that we have, and that's something we have talked about. But according to you, because we're maxed out, the one thing that Americans shouldn't have is babies, and I'm pretty sure you're not for that.
The immigrants cannot have more babies.
There we go.
Americans.
Ding, 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 ding. That's exactly it. That's exactly it, Marty. There's your xenophobia again, right on display, because you're afraid of the migrants or the immigrants having babies. You're okay with Americans. You're just worried about the others taking over. Again, I heard this in the 60s, 70s, 30s, 40s. This is a tired, jingoistic
How do you preserve the culture
trope.
then? How do you preserve the culture?
What's America's culture? Oh, please define for me what's America's culture, please.
Well, let's talk about mom and dad and family and God and common law and the things that we hold in value, like own a home, go to college, those kind of things. How do we preserve all that with Haitians
hang on a second. Hold on. I'm pretty sure that Haitians have moms and dads. I'm pretty sure that Haitians go to school. I'm pretty sure that Haitians go to work. All the stuff that you ascribe would be just fine. Haitians do that, but because they're from a different country, they're not good enough for you.
But why isn't so if there's overlaps in American and Haitian culture, why doesn't Haiti look like America?
What's American culture? I'll go back to that question. What's American culture? Please, someone help me define this.
Well,
you work hard.
I think it's predominantly a Protestant work ethic culture. It's predominantly Protestant. It's predominantly influenced by that kind of Protestant work ethic that's been inherited. It's limited government. It's a republic.
I disagree.
It's those types of things. So why
I disagree on the idea of limited government. I disagree on that. But
you don't think we're a limited government? We have a federalized government.
No, but the idea of limited, and we can argue that, but that's not for this conversation at this point.
But you asked what American culture is, and I go generally it's a limited government culture.
I understand that. I disagree at that point, but I will accept it based on the conversation. So I'm not going to argue that at this point. I'm just saying I disagree with that. I can make arguments to their side, but I'm not worried about that in this discussion. That is not germane to this discussion.
But the question being,
the issue that is that all of those things could be picked up and placed into something like an Italy or a Germany or a Spain or an England. That doesn't necessarily mean
so
American
that would be
culture.
a Western culture. Yes, it's Western, but this is why it did. This is why Republican democracy didn't work in Afghanistan. Because there is a uniquely American culture.
Is a melting pot where we have blended cultures. The idea that America has one
Sort
defining
of.
culture, no. That is how this
Sort
country
of.
was built. It was a blending of all of those cultures. That's why our language exists the way that it does. That's
English?
why. Yes, that part of it is because of the blending of the cultures. That's why we have a different form of English than they have in England, because of the blending of the cultures.
So,
that's
but
the
we're
point. Hang on a second.
we're
Wait, let me get through this.
predominantly a
Wait,
Western Protestant culture.
Can I get through this, please? Please
Sure.
give me the space to get through this.
Okay.
What I'm saying is it's that blending of the cultures. And now we're saying because we are a country that has blended all these cultures, now we decide what cultures we don't want to blend with. That's the BS in this argument, that because we've decided we've got enough of the blending done, we now need to shut out everybody else. That's crap.
No, I don't think so. I think the
crap.
question
Absolute
is
crap.
whether or not those that are going to come are going to embrace American culture. Are they going to create little tribes?
And that's why people didn't want the Germans here. That's why people didn't want the Irish here. That's why people didn't want the Chinese here. This is a tired xenophobic trope.
No,
we need to move beyond it.
Billy,
go ahead, Marty.
Yeah, Marty, go ahead.
This is a great one. This is a great one, though, Billy. So think about John Deere. It had a culture. It had a mission statement. It had an American core value. John Deere, you thought of that brand. What happened to it when it let this new culture influence it? It went DEI. It's now being threatened with tariffs. See, it doesn't work to.
What's the culture
to
statement
concede
inside
your
of John Deere?
mission.
You said that John Deere had this American culture statement. What was it?
Yeah. Well, in your mind, before they went woke, did you think of John Deere as an American brand, an American staple, putting the food on your table with their equipment made by Americans? Isn't that the mission that you always felt coming out of John Deere? And then they let outside culture come in and completely change what they had built over 100 years. Was that good? So America should do the same
Again,
thing.
you've got
bring in some Haitians?
Here's the thing: you've drawn a conclusion that doesn't exist. You've decided that John Deere is no longer American because you disagree with DEI, and that's on you. That's not as part of this. That's not part of this discussion. John Deere didn't become un-American because they decided to go with DEI.
Bill,
they did not. That's
last
not,
question. We got to get to a break.
It's ridiculous,
And Marty, thank you for the call. Do you think all cultures are equal?
Depends on how we're defining culture, but no, I don't. I just in my general, I would say in general, probably not. Probably not, given how the culture is defined in and of itself. I would assume that I don't have the same agreement with what I would see as certain parts of Russian political culture. I disagree with those. Yeah.
Or Islamist cultures.
Yeah,
I mean, those
in
are
some
terrible.
cases.
I mean, they toss gay people off roofs.
Yeah,
man.
in some
Okay?
fundamentalist groups, but there are also
Right.
some fundamentalists in all sorts of religions that
Right,
have problems as well.
But not all cultures are equal. All right. Well, we'll continue this conversation. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour, I'm Christina Wyo in Dallas, and here are your top stories.
The Institute for Global Affairs has released their polling data revealing that voters in 6 key swing states think President Donald Trump would be better at foreign policy, end the wars in Gaza and Ukraine, and handle China much better than Kamala Harris. In foreign policy in the swing states, Trump came out on top 56 to 44%. As for the wars in Ukraine and Gaza, Trump also took the swing states by 58 to
At this hour, I'm Christina Wyo in Dallas, and here are your top stories.
The Institute for Global Affairs has released their polling data revealing that voters in 6 key swing states think President Donald Trump would be better at foreign policy, end the wars in Gaza and Ukraine, and handle China much better than Kamala Harris. In foreign policy in the swing states, Trump came out on top 56 to 44%. As for the wars in Ukraine and Gaza, Trump also took the swing states by 58 to 42% and by the same margin on the question of China. Trump also led the swing states over Harris by 56 to 44% on immigration policy. Across the country, including in some of the nation's presidential swing states, new or recently altered state laws are changing how Americans will vote, tally ballots, and administer and certify November's election. In Georgia, election workers will be hand counting the number of ballots cast after voting is completed. In North Carolina, some students and university staff can use their digital IDs to vote. In Wisconsin, ballot drop boxes are legal again. However, not every voting jurisdiction will use them. Even more changes are looming in some states, with Election Day on November 5th now just weeks away. Several states already have started sending out mail ballots, and in some states, voters have started casting ballots in person. Governor Greg Abbott announcing this week that he's offering a reward of up to $5,000 for information leading to the identification and arrest of known or suspected members of the violent Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua.
In Dallas, Christina Weil, Salem News Channel.
What if this sound actually made you smile, giving you a chance to win gas and groceries for a year? It's the $13,000 gas and grocery giveaway. The grand prize winner gets $10,000 in gas and grocery gift cards. 2 first prize winners get $1,000 in gift cards. And 2 second prize winners get $500 in gift cards.
Presented by Branch Planning. Secure your future retirement with a reliable income stream. Get your complimentary review at branchplanning.com or call 303-219-0088. The $13,000 gas and groceries giveaway. Enter today at 710knus.com.
Well, Billy and I burned through the entire first hour of this. This is a heck of a debate. Not against immigration at all. Not against assimilation. Not against the cultural melting pot that is America. But we're having a really interesting discussion as to how many immigrants is too many, and why do Democrats, or why are they so intent on this? Why is it such a core part of at least the last 3.5 years? And I'm not absolving Republicans of this, but 10 million immigrants in the last 3.5, 4 years under Joe Biden. That's a lot. That's something that we really haven't seen in this country before. And is it right that people in Springfield, Ohio and Aurora, Colorado are frustrated by some of this, or are they being xenophobic? And this brings up a broader philosophical question that I was reminded of, Bill, being a guy with a philosophy degree. At one point we discussed how many parts of a ship can you replace before it becomes a different ship? So in this case, how many immigrants can you bring into America with their own cultures before it ceases to look like America anymore? And is there a change that takes place? What do you think?
That's a good question. And the thing that I would push back on is you'd have to show me what the ship looked like to begin with before I can talk about making the changes, because the argument that I would push back on that is going to make this more fun would be the ship that existed prior to colonialism versus the ship post-colonialism are two completely different ships.
Oh, yeah.
So
No, they are.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. So then we need to go forward from there and talk about replacing the ship parts, because I feel I can make the argument that when we go from pre-colonial America into colonial America, we're dealing with an entirely different ship.
Yep,
and assuming
100%.
then and saying, well, the colonial American ship is the true ship, may not necessarily be true, because there was a ship that existed before that.
But it was the reality of the founding, at least of the country that we inhabit now. So with regards to the norms and the habits and the documents that guide this country. So it was predominantly a Western Protestant country that formed the Constitution.
Yeah, I mean, it was Dutch and German and Spanish and French. Those are the original colonies.
So the Western civilization,
yeah, but
right?
Again,
it wasn't an Asian, it wasn't an African.
All
it was
leaving their country instead of fixing the problems they saw there. Same thing here. And again, I would say that talking about the changing of the American ship and the dismantling of our American ship, it is a misnomer, because we came here and tore down the ship that existed. So now claiming that our ship is the one that we have to represent, I disagree with that philosophically.
Right? You don't think America, as was built by the founders, was better than the America prior to the colonial?
I'm not saying better or worse. What I'm saying is,
why wouldn't you say it's better?
What I'm saying is, in this discussion philosophically, we are ignoring the fact that a ship existed first. We're worried about the second ship changing and saying, oh my gosh, all these parts are changing, and it's going to change the ship that we built after we burnt down the first one. That first one has to be in conversation. We've already destroyed the original ship. Complaining about replacing parts on the new ship seems irrelevant at that point, because we've already been okay destroying an entire ship. Then complaining about replacement of parts seems irrelevant.
I think we built a better ship.
I know. I'm not saying better or worse. I'm just saying it seems irrelevant philosophically. Right. I'm taking this esoterically, outside of the real world. I'm just saying that if we're okay with burning down the first ship, complaining about replacing parts in the second one seems irrelevant at that point. But that's why people didn't like me in philosophy class.
All right. We'll get to your calls. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Having a fantastic conversation. We do have one open line. We're going to get to Dave and Frank in a second. Give us a call, 303-696-1971, or text the show on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. There's a billboard driving from Wyoming into Colorado that says, Venezuela ahead, be prepared, which then kicked off a whole lot of conversations about Springfield, Ohio. And then a question, how many immigrants is too many? And at what point do people with different cultures start to make America look different? Not look as in visually, but operate different. So like in Michigan, for instance, when you've brought in Muslim cultures into particular communities, well, they start electing Muslim elected officials. And is that just the American dream? Is that the melting pot of what America is? Or are there just fundamental transformations that are taking place to this country as a result of people coming into this country with different cultures, different values, gaining enough numbers, electing their people to represent them? And is that going to fundamentally alter America and make it look different?
Yeah. And that's why people were pushing back against voting for JFK back in the day, because of his religion and because of his brand of Christianity, that was going to change fundamentally.
He was going to take orders from the Pope.
Yeah, but it was going to fundamentally change the order and the Constitution of America, that it was going to change what American culture was. So we couldn't vote for the Catholic. Yeah, this has happened before. This is not new. It's just the nouns change. That's all.
Do you think Ilhan Omar is the same concern though as JFK?
In some ways, yeah. I
Really?
do think
so?
there's, yeah, I do. And the thing is, for me, I don't see them as the same people. I think Ilhan Omar is wrong on a number of things, and that's okay. I think there are lots of people that are in our Congress that are wrong on a number of things. I got a huge list of people. I think Schumer's an idiot.
It brings any concern to you?
No, it's whether or not you're a fundamentalist. Then I have a concern, but I also have a concern about fundamentalist Christians. Yeah, I have a real concern about them as well, just like fundamentalist Islams. Yes, absolutely.
But is there a fundamentalist Christian nation? Because you have lots of Islamist nations, and they're a real problem in this country.
I know people that would love to start one, and they picked up some states here in America.
You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS. Sometimes the openers are perfect.
I know. Speaking of blood boiling, text message lines are hot. So are the phone lines.
Oh, are they ever? We appreciate all the texts, all the calls. You guys have been great today. You really have showed up and showed out.
It's been fun conversation. And we are having conversation that nobody else is having, like how many immigrants are too many immigrants for America?
I mean, who else are going to have this level of conversation, to have this open of a conversation with you? And most importantly, who else here in Colorado is going to allow you to participate at this level? Who else gives you this opportunity to talk about these issues, these questions, these concerns we all have at this kind of a level, this openly, this honestly? And who else, what other show are you going to find that's going to accept everybody across the political spectrum and give you a voice?
That's exactly right. Give us a call, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. Let's go to news and comment with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning. I'll shut up this hour. I'll get
no,
to the news.
It's funny. I feel like we just did it because we didn't do news and comment till well after the 20.
Oh, dude, it was amazing. Thank
section.
you so much for everything last hour. And even the fact that we went to the weather so late that Jeff and I forgot that it wasn't a full break.
I get up and I'm like, I'm going to go get my coffee. No, we're right back.
We're back. It was great, my friend. You're fantastic.
The challenge is you guys are awesome. I just think there should be a new law. Okay, as many immigrants as we want. Everyone can come here.
Right.
No,
why
one,
not? I mean, there's like a de facto. That's like the de facto Democrat position. That's my question about this. Is like,
I got a problem with that. It's here's the
here
line.
We go again.
Here's the line. I'm gonna draw. Here's the line.
We'll do a 30-second clock.
This is it. It's the line I'm gonna draw is unless they are Las Vegas Raiders fans.
Okay, see, I was
on the line. If the Raiders fans, get out.
You're
Get
bowling
out right
down
now.
my lane here in my alley. But here's what I was here's what I was going to say, Billy, because I knew it would get your goat, right?
Oh,
okay.
exactly.
Look, you know what? Everyone can come here. Just everyone come here, but there has to be one law and one rule. You cannot watch or like soccer. That's it.
Now you've made me sad. I love you. You're the best.
And you can't talk about it.
This is the problem. See, I feel like this is just a way that you want to get me deported. That's what I feel like it is. You figured out a way to get me deported.
Hey, there's an idea.
Now it's starting to sound like a hostage exchange conversation.
Yes, it does. Yes. And I'm taking
Check
it personally.
that text line now.
You're the best.
All right. 60. Thank you. So are you. 60, and you too, Jeff. 60 and sunny in Denver, expecting a high of 88 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story, Douglas County adopting a campaign ban in order to reduce homelessness. Douglas County commissioners made it illegal to camp on public property Tuesday, implementing a fine of up to $1,000 for each violation. Homelessness in the county has dropped significantly in the last 2 years, but elected leaders say the camping ban will help protect public property and let residents reclaim their public spaces. Officials said that they will continue to offer resources through the county's Heart Initiative to help people dealing with homelessness. Don't expect another big Tabor check next year. Tax refunds will now be based on income, and the Colorado Legislative Council estimates a much lower amount. Those filing on their own can expect between $181 and $571. Former President Trump in Savannah on Tuesday.
You know, when she says we're working on the border, she still has airplanes flying in loaded up with migrants over the border. She thought she wouldn't get caught. It took them about 2 years to figure that one out. It was a little strange. Brand new, beautiful, large Boeing jets are landing in airports all over our country, and migrants are getting out. It took a little while to figure that one out.
She is Kamala Khan and former President Trump. Both of them have agreed to participate in 2 town halls next month for undecided Hispanic voters. Univision journalist Enrique Acevedo will field audience questions for Trump on October 8th in Miami and Harris on October 10th in Vegas. Michael Cohen on Messy NBC with Nicole Wallace this morning. He says he's leaving the country if Trump becomes the president because he'll go after all of his political enemies. Hey, wait a minute.
Oh, darn.
Isn't that what they did? Oh, yeah. Oh, darn.
Oh, darn.
Wait, hold on.
Door hit you.
Here we go. We just found the solution to our immigration problem. We just get all those people to leave.
That's
then
right.
balance it out. I'm just an idea guy right now. I'm just saying it's
There
an
you
idea.
go. Man, those ideas are just blossoming.
A whole bunch of people that have weaponized the government against their political opponents
Yeah.
are concerned that their
Yes.
political opponents may weaponize the government against them.
Bingo.
Oh, darn.
Listen to the little crybaby.
Well, I'm out of here. I mean, I'm already working on a foreign passport with a completely different name. I don't know how it's going to work as far as dealing with my wife and my children. I certainly don't want them moving to where I'm looking to go. But I don't think yourself, the president of MSNBC, General Milley, Liz Cheney. How many people
Yes,
has
Liz
he turned
Cheney,
around and
go.
said that these are people that I intend to go after if I have the ability to. And the worst is the Supreme Court's recent decision that gave him immunity, presidential immunity. Not only is it I can do whatever I want, but I can't even be prosecuted to get out of jail free card.
Dude, Trump
That is
lives so
choice.
rent-free in their heads.
I'm
He
telling
doesn't
you.
have to do anything. He's going to be
Man.
terrified for the rest of his life, and Trump can
Yes.
just be playing golf, enjoying and laughing about it all along the way.
Is that amazing? Wow.
And
Incredible.
wow.
It's not even the president. And he's behind in the polls on MSNBC.
So where's Liz Cheney going to go? We're going to have
I
like a
don't
Carmen.
know.
You remember the old Carmen San Diego? You guys are too old, but this was a popular show. Where in the
know-
world is
I
Carmen
know
San
that.
Diego?
Yes, where in the world is Carmen?
Yeah,
I played
yeah.
Carmen San Diego. I had the
Yeah.
damn computer game.
Oh yeah, the game.
Yes.
That's right.
Oh, gee, I'm a nerd.
So,
I'm an OG.
so
I'd be
it'll be a
willing to
little
drive her.
weekly
Yeah.
thing. Where in the world is Liz Cheney? She
Yes.
runs for her life from
Okay, now
scary
again,
Donald
Where
Trump.
is she going?
Again,
Yes. Yes.
we know, Blake, and you know that the Jeff and Bill show is all about solutions. So again, I'm going to come to the table. Maybe this is a solution, and I'm going to lean
Right.
into your sports background. Maybe what we need
Okay.
to do with some of these people that are worried about what happens under a new Donald Trump administration, and they're talking about leaving. What we need to do is we need to figure out a trade. So maybe it's Liz
I like
Cheney
it.
for 10 Haitians that promise to work and learn English.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay, I love
Is
it.
we set up a
I
huge
love
I
trade
will make
board.
that trade.
Yes.
See?
I will
Yes.
absolutely make that
Yes.
trade.
Yes.
Even
Absolutely.
Even through all the arguing, we can still find the solutions
Yes.
together, gentlemen.
They have to learn the Star Spangled Banner.
Yes,
too.
exactly.
Or
That's the first thing. Yes.
No,
That's like-
I think
yes.
that's a great
Brilliant,
trade.
Bill.
Oh, Bill,
Brilliant.
we could have
That's
like,
almost Herschel Walker-esque.
oh man, it's like the combine. You know what you could have is you could have different things. We
Yeah.
could watch the immigrants get up there and we could see who could sing the Star Spangled Banner the best. And then you could run through the Constitution.
Oh,
and then
I
you could
love
have
it.
an essay portion of the program.
I
And then there's a
think
talent
that's
portion.
great.
And, yeah, and then we figure out
I'm
okay,
all
how many
for
we
it.
trade for. There we go. We're
As
gonna solve
long
this.
as we can get rid of Liz Cheney and her buddies, I'm good. I am good. I love it.
Adam Kinzinger would cry so hard. You would land. I just have this vision of him landing in Haiti because he's been traded like it's a sports team.
Yes.
And he's just sitting there on the tarmac weeping.
Yes. Oh man, we've got to do a video.
Okay,
on
now this
that.
is totally
That would be
inappropriate.
awesome.
Is okay again because I'm going to play with this. So
Well, this
again,
is the show for it.
Exactly. Yes, and it's always my fault. It's going to be Kinzinger on the tarmac as he lands in Haiti and go. He starts crying. Go. Okay, is now the time that we start eating the cats and the dogs?
I love it.
I had to. I'm sorry. I had to. I apologize.
That's great. That's great. All right. Thousands of Florida residents are being ordered to evacuate ahead of tropical storm Helene. The storm is expected to become a hurricane today and would be the fourth hurricane to make landfall in the U.S. when it hits Florida's Gulf Coast, probably late Thursday. All right, back to all the fun. It's 55 in Golden, 57 in Westminster, 60 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue Wednesday. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
High pressure covers the entire western half of the nation and will through the weekend. So Denver and the Front Range will be sunny, warm, and dry with clear, cool nights through Sunday. Sunny to partly sunny with mid-80s today, 85 to 90 Thursday, low to mid-80s for Friday, and 80s Saturday and Sunday. Nights mostly 50s. Weather sponsored by branchplanning.com. Secure your future retirement with a reliable income stream. Annuities can provide guaranteed payments, giving you peace of mind. Get your complimentary review at branchplanning.com or call 303-219-0088. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
This has got to be, Bill, the most clippable show we've ever had. I
Yes.
guarantee you my perspective will be lambasted later.
Mine, different outlets.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, this is great. Oh, this has been fantastic today.
All right, let's go to the phone lines. Frank, Denver, good morning. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Morning.
You guys are just having too much fun there today.
I think so. Glad to have you join with us, Frank.
Yes.
Back in the Old West, sometimes when they had differences of opinion, they used to settle it by gunslinging. But you guys are doing question and answer slinging, and that's good. And the bottom line is, though, what answers come out of this that are good and valid and maybe helpful? Maybe you should get one of the debate coaches from DU or CU to come in and give some pointers once a month or so to enlighten everybody's debating skills. There's
Frank, on that real quick, we had a great meeting yesterday with some Salem higher-ups.
Yeah.
And they love the show, and it's working its way through the Salem universe because this doesn't happen a lot.
Yeah.
To find people with different perspectives like Bill and I have that aren't trying to own each other all the time and, pound each other into the ground and get the clips and go, look,
Yeah.
I was able to defeat you intellectually and stand upon your grave. It's a great conversation, and it's gotten intense today.
Yeah.
But I think we've done it rather respectively, and that just doesn't happen all that often. And Salem's noticing it and loves it.
Yeah. In fact, Frank, yesterday, the phrase that stuck with me during this, and you may agree with this, is the person that was way high up the totem pole from Jeff and I said one of the things that is unique about this show is we are teaching families how to have Thanksgiving dinner together again, that you can respectfully disagree and not hate each other.
Well, that's the point behind the DU or CU debate team or law school person giving some pointers on debate, and maybe even a law school student from one of those schools could take on a show like yours and critique it and package it and use it as an example. And I'm sure Salem is studying what good is coming of this, because I think there is some good coming of it to let everybody air out their differences of opinions.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the population as a whole does not have great critical thinking skills. We got a lot of emotions and opinions, but there's a couple of books out there that are really good. One is called QBQ, that stands for Question Behind the Question, by a guy named John Miller. Teaches you to ask better questions to yourself about where you're coming from. And the other one is Critical Thinking Skills for Dummies, one of those old yellow and black.
Yeah, sure.
No, I think those are both great books. But, everybody comes to this from different opinions. My thing when you ask it about the question behind the question is, if you Google, Billy, the average number of immigrants, legal immigrants or illegal, if they know those numbers, in the last 10 years or 15 years, and then this sudden surge in the last 4 under Biden and the Democrats, to me, the real question is, why? The why is this happening?
It's a good
and
question.
Then, to me, I think that's a question that should be posed to the best Congress that money can buy, because you got people on both sides who are smart to answer and air those questions to the public and then come up with answers. Why do we need this? Are there little towns like Springfield who can't find workers, who are calling for workers? But what's the real impact on the city? The little
Now,
95
Frank,
pound
let
lady.
me ask, what do you think the why is? I think that's really interesting, and it's a level of a question we haven't dove into yet this morning, and so I like where you're going.
I think it's
what do you think?
complicated. I think our birth rate has something to do with it. I think the small businesses calling for workers. I think the pandemic created a shortage, but then the money influx to carry us through that created different problems. So it's all complicated, and these things should be more aired by Congress with probably input from the population, which we can now get from social media to the Congress. It might transmit some answers rather than just political solutions.
Yeah. Here's the thing, Frank, is I like that, and I love the fact that you have so much faith in Congress that I don't have. Because I feel the only thing you can get 500 plus people to agree on is let's go on vacation and raise our pay. So the idea they're going to fix anything, I don't think that's possible, but I like where you're going with this. And the other layer that I would put into it is you talked about the rapid increase over the last 4 years, and that's absolutely 110% true. There actually was an increase in immigration from the Obama administration to the Trump administration, but it exploded under the Biden-Harris administration. You're right about that. And part of what I feel, and this is just completely and totally my opinion, unmoored from any other fact check or any reality at all, I do feel that part of why the immigration policy at the border has been so lax was a rebound effect from Trump. That the Democrats were convinced they were going to come out and say, look, we're not going to act like Trump, because they spent the previous 4 years painting Trump as if he was this horrible guy on immigrants and doing all these horrible things to immigrants, despite the fact that Obama deported more. They weren't being intellectually honest when Trump was in office. And I think they got trapped, and they decided instead to swing the other direction to show how good their hearts and their souls were, not understanding the unintended consequences. But that's just my feeling.
Well, when are we going to go back to the question of William F. Buckley regarding Congress? I'd rather be ruled by the 535 people in the phone book than by who we got there now. And the question that I would have for the Democrats, when they make this sweeping statement that Trump is going to destroy democracy, ask them the question, what is your definition of destroying, and what do you mean by destroying democracy, and what are you doing?
Yeah. And Frank, I feel that that is probably the worst argument that the Democrats have been making because of the idea of just the pure destruction. I can see where they're getting that over the fact that he tried to overturn the previous election. But that, to me, the Democrats saying that Trump is going to destroy this country is the same thing that I hear when I hear the Republicans saying that the Democrats are going to turn this country communist. I believe they're both hyperbole that lack a basis in reality that is actually going to come true.
I got a new question for the Republicans and Trump to ask Kamala.
Ooh, what?
Kamala, you got a whole lot of splaining to do.
You're right, man, Frank. Thanks for the phone call,
That's
man.
a good
You're
one.
right.
Frank's line will be
That's really
open,
good.
303-696-1971. For many of us, it's happening. Your hair is thinning. Your crown's disappearing. Maybe hair loss as you feel in your identity is lost altogether. Well, I've got good news for you. It's an incredible yet simple one-day treatment that starts growing your own natural hair the very next day. And it's guaranteed to grow for life. It's the Advanced FUE from Advanced Hair. We've all seen the pills and lotions that come with monthly subscriptions. They help retain what you have. But what if what you want is your own natural hair permanently in specific areas? From Advanced Hair's state-of-the-art facilities to world-class Dr. Tanya Paul's, it's not maybe will your hair regrow. It's guaranteed that your new hair will grow. You decide how much, how thick, and where. It's why Advanced Hair's the winner of Westward's Best of Denver. For your free consultation, $250 off and 250 free hair grafts. Call 720-459-HAIR. That's 720-459-HAIR or advancedhair.com, advancedhair.com. Let's go to Hank, Denver. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Hank.
Morning.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Good. How are you? What's on your mind?
Good. Billy, this one is directed at you specifically. I wanted to pick up because I tuned in just at the last minute a few moments ago, and I was hearing your discussion with Marty, the caller Marty.
Yeah. Hey, thanks, man. And thanks for hanging with us afterwards and giving a phone call. I appreciate that. Yeah, what's on your mind?
Sure. But I have an interesting perspective on part of the discussion with Billy. I think you were asking how many people is too many people in a country. And so my perspective is this. I was in China in 1981, and I had this exact same discussion with my national tour guide. So to set the table, in 81, the population of the U.S. was about 280 million, I think it was, in the U.S. And China was just over, I think, 1.1 billion people. And if from my memory, if memory serves, I think I asked my national tour guide, I said, why communism? Why China? And he looked at me and he said, listen, in a country with 1.1 billion people, you must have control. In your country, you have 280 million people. That really wouldn't work. So your form of government totally works. In China, it would not work. It must be centralized. So I just thought it was a very interesting comment that he made some 40-something years ago.
That is really interesting and it's interesting that you bring that up because this would have been the past 14 days or so. Ran across a conversation that I forget who it was having with a Chinese lawyer. And this is a person that is part of the Chinese Communist Party, is part of the government, and is outside the country representing Chinese interests. And they were having the conversation, and he was talking about how democracy, blah, 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 doesn't like it. And they kind of come back to the same thing that you just said, that his perspective was they're communist in China because it works. And it works better for what they want. And I find that really fascinating and interesting because it is that top-down planning. It's the idea that the government will have to control all of the people rather than letting the people control the government. And so I think that fundamentally it is such a different way of looking at how societies and how countries are built, that somehow we're going to have a ruling class that then will decide what everybody else does versus what we have in America, where it's kind of a free-for-all. And sometimes we get the government we want, and sometimes we get the government we deserve.
It's actually the argument I was making is it's the culture that shapes the government. That's why it didn't work in Afghanistan. And if you have a culture like China that wants communism, I guess, I don't know how much they want it. I think it was kind of forced upon them, but I don't know. I think it's the culture.
This is my perspective. I'm looking at this more from a logical point of view. So I'm looking at this like from an actuary in an insurance company.
Oh,
so I'm looking at the law of large numbers. So my thinking is, well, and his name was Chin, really nice guy. And I was thinking, well, maybe Chin has a point because there are so many people in China. Maybe that you do need control. It's like herding cats. Whereas with another country like the U.S., where there's only 280 million people at the time, it's easier to have more free reign. So I'm thinking like a container, where you put water in a container. There's only so much water that container can hold. And I think that's the perspective, Billy, that your Chinese lawyer was coming from and my guy Chin is coming from. So I think they're thinking more logically and pragmatically. What do you think?
That sounds fairly solid because you're looking at the container being the country rather than the container being the economy, because the economies are dynamic and can grow, but it's instead the idea of how many people you can put inside of this landmass. That is really interesting, and I can see that. Now, what I would like to ask you, just hang for a second, is personally, what do you think that actuarial table looks like? Is there a maximum number that you would think we have in America? And then the other thing I want to do is I want to flip that perspective a little bit and ask you about, is it really that the Chinese government feels and the Chinese people feel that they need to control and have this top-down communist system because they have so many people? Or is it the government institutes a culture and institutes control because they're afraid of the Chinese people and giving them agency?
That's a good one.
Okay. So with the first part of the question, how many people could this country physically handle?
Yeah.
We could maybe have 1 billion people, but that'd be really pushing it. And the reason I say that, when you fly cross country, right? Have you ever looked out the window and you see all this empty land? And I've always thought, why aren't there cities there? Why aren't people living there? Of course, I'm at 40,000 feet, so maybe farms I'm looking at. I don't know. But I'm just thinking we have all this land, and why aren't we using it? And I know we are, but you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And then in terms of the other part of the question, I'm thinking, okay, so let's look at, so if you have 1.1 billion people in a country and you have a representative government where it's just pretty much, it could be a free-for-all, I could see where it could get out of control real fast. Because I'm thinking, and Jeff, this can go to you, in terms of ranching, we have tons of head of cattle or horses. I would think it'd be easier to corral a smaller number of cattle and horses as opposed to this huge herd, because they can just go everywhere. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And this is an interesting perspective I've never thought of. I still want to make sure that we remind folks that within the history of China, it was incredible oppression and the execution and murder of dissidents that brought in the Chinese Communist Party. This was not the people themselves deciding this is the way they wanted to live. So while we definitely look at the numbers, and this is something, Hank, I'm going to think about, because this is something I've never considered. Could American democracy continue under 1 billion people? I mean, that's a fascinating question. That's a fascinating question.
Right. That's what Chin was saying, because he asked me the same question. I just looked at him like, I don't know.
Right. Well, I mean, and how, I mean, look at cities. The more populated they get, the more progressive they get, the more socialist they get. And it tends to be more rural communities that are more conservative.
And then you have more stresses on internal systems because, it's the idea of more wear and tear on roads, more wear and tear on bridges.
Right.
Problems with density populations, problems with sewage, problems with providing water, problems with getting food in and out. Yeah, all sorts of things. Right. You look at Seattle, where my brother and sister-in-law live, they can't expand anywhere else other than up. They can't. They're geographically constrained, so the city can't get any bigger, and so all they can do is go up because of where they are. So
now I'm going to throw in a real rock into this pond.
All right, Hank, you ready for this? Here we go.
Here we go.
Yep.
So are the abortionists keeping America from becoming communists?
Oh, my goodness. Wow.
Oh, God.
Oh, my goodness. Wow. Jeff, man,
you can say
dude.
that's got to go, as my dad used to say.
Now I'm just tossing it out there, because if you follow these, see, now this is where you get the philosopher side, right? We're just going to explore all the crazy sides of it. All right, Hank, I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Hope you call us back again, man. Thank you for spending time with us. That was so cool. Dude,
gonna blow your mind.
That's cool. Oh my gosh, we need like a fifth of whiskey at a bar, and we can go through that and do that for hours. That's fantastic, my friend. That you're the best. You win.
That is going to make me think more about the population size and whether or not you can contain socialism in large population communities.
Yeah, we got to talk about that. That's interesting.
Because
dive in.
It is part of every major city is blue.
Yeah, and the idea that does at a certain tipping point based on numbers, does it make more sense to go with more socialist systems than capitalist systems, and what's the impact? Ooh, hey, you and Hank got deep there. I love this.
There you go.
I love this. This is going to be fun.
And I need to put in this caveat because I'm going to get text messages like that somehow I'm supporting abortion.
Oh, no.
By no means am I doing that. It's the execution of a human life.
Yeah, and it's just the idea of placing the issue on the table and saying, now let's have a discussion. You can't be afraid of placing that. You can place the issue on the table without being an advocate for it. You can always ask that question without saying, this is absolutely what I believe. But it's fair to ask the question, just like you did.
All right. I want to talk to you about my friend Dan Caplis and Dan Caplis Law. Dan suggests that you should choose a lawyer who shares your values, because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everyone involved in the case. Dan Caplis, he's the son of a police officer. He's a former seminarian who's dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people who were hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. Dan Caplis is so trusted that Dan Caplis Law is the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Caplis Law is a serious firm for serious cases, but he's not just reserved for the rich and wealthy. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. If you need Dan's help, give him a call, 303-770-5551. That's 303-770-5551, or hit dancaplisLaw.com. That's Dan, CAPLIS law.com. We'll continue with your texts and calls. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour, I'm Christina Wyo in Dallas, and here are your top stories.
As the crisis at the southern border.
Now, Jeff, before we get to the calls, this is a bit of a callback. Is it still up? Hang on. Oh, yeah. This is a little bit of a callback. I'm not going to share this on the YouTubes or the Twitters or the Rumbles because we get copyright issues.
They always do.
Yeah, but this is just a callback to a conversation that we had earlier about migrants in Springfield, because you were talking about how people were calling the police, and I found a call about people being super concerned about what was going on with migrants in Springfield, and here it is. That's it.
That is the $1 million question.
Yeah, that is.
Are they good? As somebody who frequents, restaurants like the Fort, or
you gotta know
what's the one downtown, the Buckhorn Exchange. I've had rattlesnake.
Exactly, crocodile, things like that.
Crocodile.
Ostrich,
That's never had cat or dog.
No.
I'm not sure I really want to eat that.
That's Hank Azaria, who does Chief Wiggum's voice on Simpsons. So,
Hank is
found
great.
out, so I would have had to bring that up. Just kind of bring close the circle. Conversation today.
That is hilarious. We've got a good text message here from 8422 about whether or not, the question was raised during the last caller.
Yeah.
Well, how many people are too many people? And at a certain point, do you get so many people that you can even maintain a democratic republic anymore? Or does it just kind of fall into central planning? But this is a really good point. We can't even support or probably expand our existing infrastructure for the population we have in Colorado now. Look at the highway system. Look at the issues we have with water.
That's a good question. The water is the one for me. The highway system, not as much. I think for me, that's a funding issue. And that's a problem with how we're taxing ourselves and our funding issues. The water is something that we can't manufacture. That's something that I got a huge issue with. And if we're talking about that, what you're looking at is desalinization plants to be able to pull salt out of water. But those things
that's coming from west.
Yeah.
What I actually think is the answer is a pipeline from the east.
Interesting.
From I-25 or not along I-70 from the Mississippi River.
Yeah. And there could be, possibilities there. And so that's some of the things that we have to deal with is, the water supply for me would be a huge, huge thing as far as trying to overcome that based on a large population. And I can agree with possibly the texter and say that if we didn't solve that kind of an issue, you do get into a more socialist or central planning problem because of that. Yeah.
Because it really does hit that question, why cities are blue.
Yeah.
Right. Why does that happen? And it's in part due to the lifestyle of wanting a government to provide for you. Whereas when you get out into rural, you're like, I got land. I want to be left alone.
Yeah. And the problems that come with high density populations. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
crime.
Exactly.
Healthcare needs. Those types of
Education,
things.
a whole bunch of stuff.
Yep. All right. Let's go to the phones. Joe Arvada, you're on the Jeff and Bill show, Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning.
Hey, morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Billy, Jeff. First of all, I'm walking my cat. Don't listen to these guys. Don't listen to these calls about eating cats, okay?
You're walking your cat. Do you really walk your cat?
Yeah, I have 2 orange tabbies that I've over the years kind of trained to stay in, sight distance.
Oh, that's nice. Now
So,
I gotta ask you, male tabbies or female tabbies?
Well, they're almost, 75% of orange cats or more are orange.
Yeah, are males. Yeah,
Are male.
Yep, exactly.
Are male. Yeah, and orange.
Yeah, exactly. But are theirs male or female? I'm just curious.
Yeah, they're both male.
Oh, they are. Yeah, because you need both the chromosomes. We need one chromosome in the male in order to get red-haired cats, and then you need both of them. You need the 2 X's inside a female in order to get it, because
That's right.
The coloring is it's on the X chromosome. It's where that is. And the other thing is that orangeness in your tabby is the same genetic mutation that makes red hair in humans. So you have red-headed cats.
Yeah, well, just take my advice, please, for my cat's sake. And if you have any eating things, let's go to Soylent
Joe,
Green or something.
I've been looking for the owner of a male orange tabby cat because that dude is coming by getting all my cats pregnant. So, Joe, you and I got to talk about this. I'm going to need a dowry payment.
Yeah, exactly.
How many kittens I've had to deal with recently.
Cats. You'll have some orange cats in the neighborhood to fend them off eventually.
Yeah, I mean, we have so many cats. It's kind of crazy. We're like the crazy cat people right now because we have a barn and we have this orange tabby dude that keeps coming by, and we can't get the girls fixed in time. Because if you get them fixed while they're pregnant, then all the babies die. So,
well, if you're the cat people,
go ahead,
then you got to invite JD Vance over for dinner, right?
Here's the thing, Joe. Is that what it is this tabby has figured out where the singles bar is.
Yes,
He's like,
that is
I know
exactly
where
right.
all the ladies are.
And it is. I mean, we find homes for them. We're like known as the pro-life ranch because we're always giving these animals away, and we find great homes for these little kittens and stuff like that. But this dude, man, he has found out where the single ladies are, and it's our barn.
Now, this kind of brings me to where we are talking here. You've left out something about this whole conversation, and that's corruption. What is it? Power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts.
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you, Billy. So. If you look at China as a good example, when asked why did they starve 80 million people to get to where they could control the remaining communists, well, you have to crack a few eggs to bake a cake, right? That was the answer.
Oh yeah, that's what Mao did. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, look at the fact that if you like their system, you've got to find a gulag so you can harvest organs for the supreme leader, and you've got to do things like import or export your pedophiles to the children. Got to export the children to different places for income. And, there's all kinds of catastrophic corruption that makes communism really, really good. Like, look at Venezuela.
Yeah.
Look what you've done to Venezuela. Where's Sean Penn telling us how great they did in Venezuela?
Good point.
I did find it. I always found it ironic that they immediately knew that there was election interference here in America down in Venezuela. They didn't provide. I never heard any evidence provided, but it was like they immediately jumped down.
No, Kamala actually first initiated a congratulations to the Venezuelan people for issuing their voice through the vote. She did. Go and look. She issued
it's the gold
statement.
Standard of South American elections.
And we can do
run
it
by
here.
Jenna Griswold.
Look at corruption, though. If you look at something, look, Kamala Harris, people say she couldn't run a lemonade stand. Well, she could. She just had to turn it into a lemonade Bordeaux. The point is that she has no concept of capitalism because she was raised a Marxist. And that's all she knows. Centralized power. She would tell our nation to start that porn and pedophile industry up. Let's get it turning up because that's where she comes from.
Well, I can see that critique. However, she has lived in a capitalist system and has been able to achieve based on that. So if I saw her,
she's achieved her way to the top.
Well, the thing is, if I saw her take advantage of communist principles and things, and when she was, getting elected and beyond, I might be able to get with you there. But so far, everything else.
I definitely see the communist principle of becoming the leader of a community and making millions of dollars while getting paid a government salary.
She got votes and had to compete in open elections. That's not communist in any way, shape, or form.
Well, I'm saying becoming extremely wealthy once you get into political power based on a government salary
that's capitalism too.
I think that's more. That's more of like how that's how it looks in Venezuela.
Well,
all she did is use corruption to manipulate her way to the top. Come on, let's face it.
Joe, I appreciate the call. We've just got to run here. Thank you for that.
Understand the points. Nice to hear from you, Joe.
I couldn't walk his cats.
Dude, I love Joe.
Oh, I don't even know where our cats spend the day. They just Very unique animals, man.
Oh, man. Mine came up. We have one that is an orange tabby, and she's a female, and she's so vocal. She talks to you all the time. And so she comes up and bothers me, especially when I'm recording radio and doing other stuff. And she'll wait where I'm reading something, and then I pause for it and just meow. Like, now I got to go back and re-record it. And she waits for the pauses.
I've become more of a cat person since we've had them. But this is a fact of life, and I think it can apply to a lot of different circumstances. Yeah. You can either have mice or you can have cats.
Yeah, you could also have snakes, and they'll take care of the mice.
That's true.
Yeah, just saying.
But you're going to have one of them. Yes. You're going to have predators. You're going to have mice.
Yeah, choose snakes. Just my own personal endorsement. All right, it's your turn, sir.
All right, pain from arthritis is just awful. Bone-on-bone constant pain. It robs you of so much of the stuff you love to do, but there are effective ways to deal with that pain. And I'm not talking about drugs or surgery. Listen, there's an exciting new cellular therapies that can get you lasting relief. And the place to go, QC Kinetics. QC Kinetics uses cutting-edge treatments that accelerate your own body's healing properties, revitalizing your joints so you can move again. If you're living with chronic pain from arthritis or injury, you need to know that steroid surgery and pain pills are no longer your only option. Learn how QC Kinetics can use advanced regenerative medicine to treat the pain, enhance your joints, restore your mobility, and give you long-term relief with no downtime. The local medical professionals and QC Kinetics are ready to help you get your life back with regenerative, restorative cellular treatments for your achy joints. This, guys, is the future of medicine. Call for a free consultation now, 303-900-8986. That's 303-900-8986 with locations in Aurora, Superior, Colorado Springs, and Highlands Ranch. We'll continue with the Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show, and thank you to everybody that participated in this great conversation. How many immigrants are too many immigrants for America? And why did Biden and Harris allow so many immigrants into our country the past 4 years? Is this good for America? What's really going on here? We had phone calls the entire show, text messages pouring in.
Yeah, that's great.
No other show like this. Appreciate you all so very much. As we close here, I just want to take a moment of personal privilege to recognize a good friend that passed away on Thursday. Buzz Coble of the Coble companies, great real estate developers, really helped develop out the Denver Tech Center, the Park Meadows area. Buzz was a great friend and a guy that really represented what it meant to be a Coloradan, loved his family, invested in his community, built good businesses, and was involved civically, really promoted the idea of free market capitalism and entrepreneurialism. And it's a dark day. It's a dark day to lose a guy like that. We're going to miss him a lot. So to Buzz and to Buzz's family and friends, thoughts and prayers with you all on the loss of a really great Colorado.
And it's going to be hard as you deal with this grief and move forward. But remember that all the stuff that he did to impact our lives here in Colorado and everybody's individual life means that Buzz will live on with us. He'll still be there.
That's exactly right. Thank you, Bill. And you can download the podcast if you missed the show, 710knus.com. Tomorrow, we're going to hear directly from a Ukrainian. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.